and welcome to episode 68 of the award-winning combat sports podcast, The Boxing Show, with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. I'd like to remind everybody to please like, comment, and subscribe. Turn your notifications on for more boxing content. Right, 4 times it took me to get that done, but we got there eventually, guys.
We got there in the end.
How are we doing?
Good, yeah. That was quite an entertaining outtake there that you should probably just stick in at some point. But yeah, good.
Was it entertaining though? Fucking irritating.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
one
still,
man's irritation is another man's entertainment.
Yeah, I suppose,
I'm still not at my best. I'm not usually at my best on Mondays anyway, but I'm feeling a little bit hazy today after a long weekend. I've not been very well, Barry. I know you're very sympathetic usually, but yeah.
You should get one of these watches. It sort of does your heartbeat and all that stuff.
Mate, I don't need to be reminded about how unhealthy I am.
My resting heartbeat is 38.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So your watch constantly
Really
pinging.
Yeah, just go to the hospital just constantly.
Need to change your lifestyle.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Did you just kick off there by just saying quite blatantly, I'm never at my best on Mondays, and we do this podcast on Mondays.
Sorry, guys, if we did this on Thursdays, it'd be fantastic. Win all the awards in the world.
My resting thing is 38. It's fucking 58 now because of you.
Yeah, I've started to talk. By the end of the show, it's 150 because he's enraged by me. But anyway,
Yeah, fuck's sake.
how are we getting on? How are you, Barry? How was your weekend? Were you working this weekend?
No, Bonfire's night. For us, it was because it's the weekend. It's Bonfire's this and tomorrow, isn't it? But yeah, so it was a bonfire. It was brilliant in my cricket club where I live, and it's just unbelievable. It was amazing. It was like Bonfire's night. It wasn't like the Bonfire's night I grew up in, where you'd all hold on to the fucking the rockets and shoot with each other, and then set a couple of mattresses on fire. But it was proper it was. They don't do bonfires anymore, do they?
No,
Apparently something to do with the environment or some fucking shit.
I've had a week of Diwali where I live. And,
yeah, that as well.
It's absolute chaos.
That's Halloween, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was on Halloween, but it's basically gone on since then. It was kind of petering out last night, but it is wild. Like on Thursday night, that was Halloween, wasn't it? My wife at about midnight had to kind of go next door and tell these lads who basically were just setting off fireworks on the pavement outside their house that, could they just stop it because she couldn't get the kid to sleep. People just setting off fireworks anywhere. And one year I saw a guy setting them off from his boot. And I kind of stopped.
When you mean like a car or his actual physical boot?
From his car boot. And,
both impressive.
I just kind of stopped and just with kind of wonder on my face, I think, just said to him, like, what on earth are you doing? And he just said, it's better in the boot. You get a little bit of protection from the wind. And I was just thought, right, that's not really what I was asking. It's not really. I wasn't really asking about the pure logistics of why it's better to do it in your boot. More kind of, why are you setting off fireworks from the boot of your car? But I love it though. It's great. And no, the police and that, they just let it happen. Because if they tried to get involved, they would literally have no people to do anything else.
Let's not gloss over what you said. So my missus had to go and tell my missus had to go and tell him.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Andy's just inside tutting. And rolling his eyes.
I wasn't really that bothered.
Andy's enjoying it, to be fair.
I'm the same way. I can't, I'm terrible. I used to have a plug up of us. I used to have a flat years ago, my missus. And he used to play opera music. It sounds not obviously he's not you presume he's not an aggressive guy. It'd be really fucking loud. And I couldn't tell him. My missus had to go up and tell him because I couldn't. I was like, I can't tell him because, like, what if he says no? I'd fucking losing my fucking fuming. I always think I was going to be in a fight, so I shy away from conflict because I always think it's going to be in a fight in the end. I go from A to fucking Z. I think, oh fuck's sake, shit, I fucking panic in, and I end up knocking the door. Go, what's your fucking problem? And all of it go, you couldn't turn your music down. So I can't do it. So she had to go up and knock the door. But I was stood by the door like this, like with my foot on the door. I'm gonna run up there and I'll punch him in the fucking head if he's not very big.
I genuinely think women are better at it though. Like my wife's, she's really good at kind of telling somebody something quite, I wouldn't say aggressively, but quite being pretty forthright, but without them really getting their back up. Because these lads who are like teenagers, so. Maybe like early 20s or whatever, but young. They were quite entertained by her. I think they were just kind of like, whoa, okay, but no, yeah, all right, yeah, okay. But she was giving it to them. She was basically just telling them, when they tried to explain, she just kept talking. I was listening. I didn't get involved, so I just kind of hung around
making
in the
notes,
background. Yeah.
Okay.
And then when they got to bed, I just sat in the garden and watched just a pretty awesome fireworks display, actually.
Yeah, mine was wicked Saturday, brilliant.
There we go. That's the Bonfire and Diwali chat. Did anyone watch any boxing, or was it just Bonfire and Diwali?
I watched
a little bit of boxing.
Saturday night.
I watched it all Sunday, to be fair, when I was quiet. I played football, come back, and they've all fucked off. The kids have gone to bed. Mrs. I don't know where she went. Why would I care, to be honest? And
A rare weekend that there was no work for you. Like you weren't at shows either.
No.
Quite rare, isn't it, at the weekend?
I'm not working for ages, man. Anyone got a job?
There we go. But you will be working soon. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, when Barry's going to be working?
I meant to be in Abu Dhabi this weekend. The weekend just gone, and that show got cancelled.
This week is Philadelphia, which we'll obviously come on to talk about.
I begged to go on now; they wouldn't take me.
And then next week, you don't fancy Jake Paul, Mike Tyson?
I'm not talking about that. Actually,
no, we're not going to talk about that. That's okay.
No, but I did. I almost went to Bill Smith. I'm not going now. But
Mike Barry.
Yeah,
Mike.
What's I supposed to do with it? Take it fucking with me?
No, this way.
You
can. Like, it's sort of the beauty of it. But we will talk about this past weekend's action. Before we do, there was ProBox Card in Belfast this past weekend. The return of Padraig McCrory. Obviously, the first time since we've seen him since his loss to Edgar Berlanga. It was a really entertaining fight, actually. We were at Leonard Carrillo of Colombia. 17-5 with 16 by way of. And he boxed exactly how you would have expected him to box. Wasn't scared of anyone and kind of went in. Really hurt Padraig McCrory early in that fight, but a win for Padraig McCrory and a win for the returning Robbie Davies Jr. in probably not the best fight in the world. I'm sure he won't mind me saying, but squeezed by over 95-94 decision win over a very spoiling and a very overweight Javier Fortuna over 10 rounds in Belfast. Yeah, I know, Barry. I heard you. The love is very rich coming from me. He's only 10 stone. He
was a featherweight, wasn't he?
He was a featherweight. Yeah, so he came in overweight, blew the weight on the morning of, and then obviously the fight was kept on by Robbie Davies. But yeah, not the greatest fight in the world, but a win nonetheless for Robbie Davies Jr. Obviously off the back of that war he had earlier on this year with Sergei Lipinets, so he will move on. But let's start for the review show, the review section of the show, and talk about this past weekend. Barry in Birmingham, the boxing show 0-3 for predictions for the main event. Shabaz the Maverick Masoud produced a performance befitting of his nickname, a Maverick performance in really dominating, despite the scorecards, which we will come on to later on, dominating Liam Davies over 12 rounds. Fantastic performance.
Yeah, he boxed really well, and you always thought that he was going to, like I think we might have mentioned that last week, about he might build up a lead, but it was always a worry because of the fight against what's his name?
Jose San Martin,
which he learned from, actually, ironically. That's probably the best thing ever happened to him, but he did struggle down the stretch. You thought, so someone like Davis, who likes to be busy and can whack, certainly can whack, then somewhere at those later stages, if you're starting to lose your shape, then you're going to be in trouble. That's what that was I think the consensus and probably the right way to go. But Masoud never lost his shape, and he never tired, and he never looked in trouble. He never looked panicked because he dictated the pace. So everything was boxed. Every engagement was conducted by him, more or less. Even when Davis was coming forward, he slowed him down with the jab. I know everyone was praising the left hand, which was brilliant, but the jab just made Davis reset, made him throw from too far out, stopped him throwing in combinations, and then every time he did land with a shot or land on the gloves or the body, anything, he made sure he clipped him before he moved. Masoud, he boxed absolutely, and I think I put a tweet out. It sounded better than I can actually say it, but my thumbs are more intelligent than my tongue. But being able to slow the pace down, it just gives you, when you don't panic. That's what I was saying. When you don't panic under pressure, it gives you so much time to do stuff because you don't think you have to overreact. And he just never panicked. And you're against a big. It's easy to say, "No, I'm not going to panic." Davis was throwing single shots. That was his problem. The biggest downfall, I thought. Against someone like Masoud, you've got to throw in combinations and just make the last one hard. If that's or one of them had, I'm going to worry about loading up. But you got to make him make you miss once or twice to get him off balance because he's going to keep leaning back and spinning. So at some point, you keep throwing combinations, you'll get him off. But Masoud just slowed him down, and because he never panicked under pressure. just gave him so much time to do stuff. Because you see, when you don't panic, you see things more clearly. In anything in life, it's like when you lose your temper. When you don't lose your temper, you see things more clearly. You can articulate yourself better, which I articulate.
Almost got it, but anyway, go on.
Well, I was close, wasn't I? But I'm under pressure, I'm panicking. But he doesn't, and I think and he showed a real maturity in his work. I think that's what summed it up. And I thought he was fantastic. From the first round to the last round, there was never a time in that fight where he looked in remote danger. I don't think, even when he got caught a few times. Never looked like the fight wasn't going to go his way, and it was a massive dominant display in a fight that if he won he was going to trickle over the line, we all thought, if he won. But he just did it as a breeze, and he made Davies look very, very ordinary. And he's not an ordinary fighter. He's a good fighter, Davies, but he wasn't on Saturday, and that's not him. I don't think he underperformed. They'll look back and go, I underperformed, I didn't do this, I took him lightly, I thought as the commentary kept saying, about, I know he thought his power was going to be a factor and just worried about that, and he didn't take him lightly. He knew what he was up against. He just couldn't do it. Because ultimately, all the game plans are brilliant, but people go too mad on game plans, and they always give the trainers and the corners loads of credit, which you should, but ultimately, you just do what you do best. And if it's good enough, you'll win. If it's not good enough, you won't. That's the fucking truth of it with boxing. If you can't think for yourself in those 3 minutes, then you're not gonna be a good fighter anyway. So all the game plans are brilliant, but if you stick to a rigid game plan and something changes and you can't think for yourself, then you're in no man's land. And we've seen that before. And maybe we saw that Saturday, but I don't think it was that. I just think Masoud just dictated everything. Whether he was moving forward or moving back, he just dominated everything. Should I say it again?
No, but we'll bring in Andy. You take a breath now, Barry. Bring in Andy. We spoke about it in the build-up to the fight. The fact that, Shabaz Masoud, and you compare Shabaz Masoud and Liam Davies over the last 2 or 3 years. You've got Liam Davies, who's beaten some very, very good names in and around that sort of British, European level at super bantamweight, while Shabaz Masoud really has kind of struggled to kick on from that win over Jack Bateson that he had on the ProBox card. Going into the fight on Saturday night, it looked as though the odds were stacked in his favour, but it didn't take very long for him to kind of to really put pay to those pre-fight odds. He started the fight in fantastic fettle and never really looked back.
No, 100%. And just to provide some kind of justification for our hat trick of errors on the prediction front, the logical choice had to be Davies when you look at their resumes and what they've done in their careers. If you went for Masoud, the only reason you could do that would be if you were close to him and you really felt like you knew what he had got and that he was more than capable of it, or if you were having a bit of a contrary punt. And he was terrific right from the start. I thought he was brilliant, and he won the fight by an absolute mile. He never looked like he was going to wilt really or slow down. And Davies stuck to it. He stuck to it. He kept going, and I gave him the 6th. I think that was the first round I gave him, and I thought, okay, could he now go on to have the second half of the fight that he really needs for this to turn into an absolute banger at the end where it's going to be really tight? And Masoud, to his credit, just did not allow that to happen. And I agree. I don't think that Davies did. I don't think it was down to any complacency. This doesn't make a lot of sense, but I think it's perfectly possible for someone to turn out to be, on the night or just in general, a lot better than you expected without you overlooking them. That doesn't really make sense, but I think that is possible. You can prepare for yourself for a really hard fight, expect them to bring a really good fight, do everything you're supposed to do, but then on the night, they are just a level above where you perfectly reasonably probably thought they were. And that will come as a kind of a shock to you. And Barry was talking about panic there, and Davies might have started to panic a bit. And that could have been part of the reason why he wasn't really able to get to him, because you get into the second half and you're still not really able to pin this guy down, and the fight's getting away from you, and all of a sudden you're in a really, really difficult situation. And being able to kind of stay calm in that scenario is probably quite difficult, because you're thinking to yourself, what the fuck's going on here? Like, this guy's like way better than I maybe thought he was. All the things that work for me normally just aren't working. That's not a great spot to be in, but that's where he that's where he found himself. It was, he was brilliant, Masoud. I thought.
I thought Masoud. I agree with you. I give Masoud, I think, the first 5 rounds, or I might have had it 4-1 after 5 or something. And there was a round where Davies won the round, and just like I think I saw a tweet that you put out, Andy, where it says, we've spoken about this in the past, where you get that tipping point, don't you?
Yeah, I thought that might have been it.
But every time Davies kind of had or won that round or threatened to get on top in rounds, because he started a few rounds quite well, Davies, but then as the rounds went on, Masoud would find those moments in the round to really, and it was the clean punching that he was doing that was winning the rounds that were close-ish, and obviously there was plenty of rounds that weren't particularly close. Barry, settling down into the start of that fight, we always talk about kind of show them what you've got early, and for Masoud it was the southpaw left hand and the speed and all of that. The first 3 rounds he was pretty difficult to... The performance that I kind of tongue-in-cheek said, the Stoke Rigondo. I spoke to Shabaz Masoud this morning, and he said that the fight that they'd been watching was Guillermo Rigondo against Nonito Donaire. And he said the first 3 rounds, slow the pace down, show him the left hand. Those first 3 rounds, I mean, there's one thing, kind of we said in the past, haven't we, about like a slick defensive boxer winning the first 3 rounds or using their movement. It wasn't that he was just doing that. He was landing and showing Davies what he had offensively as well.
Yeah, again, with someone like Masoud, if you throw single shots, he can work off that. He feeds off that because he skips back in little increments, so he doesn't take a massive step back. He moves back a little bit, so he makes you miss. So you think you got him in a defensive mode because he doesn't. He takes those small steps. It allows him a chance to pounce back on you. So making you miss, making you pay, is what he does so well. And you tend to think, but because it's defensive, there's no real meat in his shots, but I think there is. I don't think he's a big puncher, but I think there's enough in there to make you think, I don't want to throw another one. You know what I mean? He makes you aware of you've made a mistake, and that's all he needs. I mean, for his style, and that's all. When you get up to a high level, you're going to need a bit more than that. But I mean, for Saturday, it was perfect. So every time Davies threw a shot and he missed, then Masoud would hit him and then spin off. Sometimes he got behind him, didn't he? He got right around him. Just make that little skip back, come back with the shot, and then when you look to fire back yourself, he's already on by the side of you. He's here, he's behind you, and you can't get no momentum in your work. So you have to increase the pace, believe in yourself a little bit more, and never throw less than 2 to 3 punches when you throw a combination. You've got to throw in blusters. You have to. You can't throw in single shots, and this is a confident sport. So once the confidence in Masoud, he gets his rhythm going, which he did very, very quickly, which he was always going to. A fighter like him is always going to get that rhythm quicker, unless you make him feel something, unless you make him panic, you hurt him, or you jump on him quick or make him rough, whatever you have to do. But if you don't do that, and he's allowed time to get it to get that confidence, then you got to change the pattern of a fight. And that's difficult to do at any level. But at this level, for these guys where they are now, which is on the way to the top, but not there yet, nowhere near there yet, then it's a learning process. You haven't been that fight before. You don't know how to adjust yourself. And Davies is the far more experienced fighter on paper, but he's had a lot of things his own way. I'm not criticising him. It's just how it's been because of his power and his tenacity. He's had things his own way. Most of his, not always, but most of the time. Where Masoud, that San Martin fight was a prime example. He never had things his own way. He massively struggled in that fight. He won it, but he had a hard night. So that shows vulnerabilities, but also that shows things you can work at, and also tells you about yourself. It's key moments in a fight that what you didn't do right, what you did do right. I should have, believed in myself more at the beginning, or I needed to adapt a bit more and push through a little bit later on in the fight. So he started off fast, used the movement, but never ran. And again, people tend to think because you're the mover that you're going to be the guy who's running, and he never did. And I think that shocked David. I think David thought every time he just steal his space and bully him. And when he got him on the ropes, he just bang him. I think that's what he thought. He must have known more than the Masoud spins off and pivots really well, so he must have known it was going to be hard to get him there. But I don't think there was any real thought about making that ring a smaller space. I think he went at him in straight lines, which is what he does anyway. And I think he does adapt quite well because he can shorten his punches up, but he has to have some success before he does that. And he wasn't allowed any success ever, I don't think. I can't really think of a moment where even the couple of those rounds he won, when there was never any massive moments in there. Really, that you just go, oh, hang on, he's back. Even when he tagged Masoud, I can't remember every second of every round. But even when he tagged Masoud, I don't think it was anything clean enough to go.
No, not really. And Masoud answered back in pretty much every exchange. And as I said, the rounds that I had it 117, 111 for Masoud, which we'll come on to now. The scoring side of things.
And I felt like if
in that case, that's what I was
going to say. Yeah,
I thought those three for Davies were all pretty close.
Yeah, but it was. You
could have.
It was by far. It was way more a 118, 110 than it was a 116, 112. You know, I had it 117, 111, but I felt like if it was going to be, it would be around the other way. Which leads us on to the scoring of the fight. A split decision, Andy. I mean, it's up there with one of the worst cards of the year. I think Marco Morales, his 113, 115 scorecard, obviously the other way around, in favour of Liam Davies. Yeah, thoughts?
Well, he's just given Davies rounds for coming forward. That's the only way you can arrive at that scorecard, and there are judges around who do that, and it's an absolute shambles, because the primary criteria when you're scoring a round of boxing is who does the more effective punching, who lands what, and just coming forward is okay. It's being aggressive, but it's not effective aggression if you're not landing anything, and the other fighter is. It doesn't matter how you get it done, whether it's front foot, back foot, side foot, you know, like it doesn't matter how you land. It's about who lands what and what effect it has. And that's the only way you could get that score, is if you gave Davies rounds for coming forward. In which case, he probably should have given it to Davies wider than he did. If that's the criteria that you're working on, you probably should have given him every round, if that's how you're looking at it. I mean, it was just, when they announced split decision, I just thought, oh my God, surely not. And we got the right winner, and we're so used now to rogue scorecards that will say, well, at least the right guy got it. But you can tell as you're going through a fight, and I'll definitely do it myself. When you're listening to a commentary team, we've got so little faith in the judges now that even in a really clear fight like that, you'll find yourself needing to just remind people that you never really know with the judges, and give reasons why they could be seeing it tighter than you, to kind of, I guess you are covering yourself, but you're also just pointing out a reality of the sport. And that's like, you shouldn't be having to do that. But the 115, 113 Masoud was a mile off as well, I thought. But it's... okay, things can look a little bit different for ringside. I will always accept that. I say it myself when I've got something a bit different to how other people have seen it, if they've seen it at home.
Well, a bit of a better beer.
Yeah, if there's a discrepancy, you know, so I'm not going to all of a sudden renounce that. But how you could score that 7-5 to Liam Davies, I've absolutely no idea, other than you're just giving somebody rounds for coming forward. But as I say, you see judges do that, and it's an absolute nonsense.
I think there needs to be a universal, I think there is, but it's not really, scoring criteria, and there should be tiers of scoring criteria. Like the obvious, the tier 1 is obviously punches landed and biggest, but then it's always going to be subjective, because a big punch supersedes a lighter punch.
And that's the difficulty of it. And no one argues about that, do they? Weighing that up is hard. And that's fair enough. And then they go that quality over quantity. If I land with 6 shots, does that outweigh your one big shot? And then I go back, and I think it was again in the Clarke and Walker fight, where Clarke landed with the heavier shots, but Walker outworked him, and it was like, and that's why I thought Walker won. The judges didn't see it that way, but I thought, if that big shot's not having the desired effect, is it then actually a big shot? If it's not, if it's not hurting you or rocking your head back, it's just a big shot. You might hear it, but it's just so it ends up just being a punch like the punches. Yeah, or I land one on you that looks like absolutely fuck all, but then your legs stiffen, and you just say, well, okay, well that counts for more.
But mostly, if you whack me with a big shot and I haven't blinked, but I back you with a light shot and you haven't blinked, and you go, oh, that was a big shot. Like, here, no, but it didn't have the effect. It is a bigger shot, obviously, but does it outweigh my 4 lighter shots, which will still hit the target just like yours did? And it is weight behind.
That's the difficulty, though,
That's
isn't it?
subjective, that's always.
Yeah, that is subjective, and I would never argue with that. Like that weighing that up, that energy bar, if you like, and what takes how much of that energy bar away, weighing that up, that is subjective.
And that's preferential.
Yeah, when you get a close fight on that score, then yeah, it is subjective. But this idea, people bandy around, it depends what you like, and what they mean by it is, do you prefer the guy who's going forward, which a lot of judges do, or do you? But that doesn't matter.
I think again, it doesn't matter in your tier 1 scoring system. It's a new one I got, but I mean, somewhere down the line, the guy trying to make. Because by the way, I was a guy who never went fucking forward. So, but like somewhere down the line, the guy trying to make the fight has to have a little bit more. It's
if you can't separate them.
At least you try. No, I mean, I knew being a defensive fighter that I had to ultimately make you pay for mistakes and really try and outwork you.
You have to do a little bit more.
Yeah. If I'm not winning round, if I'm not making you miss clearly and popping you with single shots, then if I gotta throw 4 to land 2, but when you're throwing 1, I gotta throw 3. I understand that, and that's fair enough, because this is what I'm good at, and unfortunately, if I'm good at going forward and knocking you out other than that, that's you dealt your cards, you got, and you have to work with them. So, but I mean, you're well aware of that. You can't be throwing single shots, going shot for shot, but you moving back and the guy moving forward, because you tend to think, and understandably, he's trying to make the fight. Though you can still argue that's a preference, and why should it be? But then, because we all want to see a fucking fight.
Yeah.
But boxing is meant to be theoretically, anyone can do it. So it's for short guys and tall guys and powerful guys and fast guys, and so my speed can beat the guy with loads of power, and your power with no feet can beat a guy who's fucking brilliant boxer but he hasn't got a chin, and that's what makes it such an engaging sport. And theoretically anyone can have a go at it, and if you're good, you go on and end up being on telly, or on the zone, which everyone is now. But I just think but otherwise you just change the criteria solely and just make it about who lands with the bigger shot. And maybe the scoring has to change, where people don't score it round by round. You just go at the end of the fight, you go, I think he won. Because if you're watching a fight at home and not scoring a fight, the impression of who you think's won can be dramatic. I'm talking preaching to the choir here. Can be to you guys, can be dramatically different if you score round by round. If you do that at home yourself, sometimes you can go, fucking hell, I got that close, but my eyes are telling me this guy's pissed it, or my eyes are telling me this is close, and my scorecard's telling me this guy's winning by a canter. But I think TV companies should put scoring criteria up, rather than put our scorecard up, which I don't think why we ever do that. But we should put for a fight the scoring criteria. Bam, 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 and get someone like you who's articulate, or someone better than you. No, I mean not someone like me. Someone who can in fucking 2 minutes can tell people, explain, or 30 seconds can explain to people what the judges will be looking for. Then we can hold the judges to task, because we know what they're looking for, and we can say you're meant to be looking for this, but you didn't, because you weren't scoring for this. Now we're saying the judges are getting it wrong, but we don't really know what they're meant to be looking for. I think certainly people at home don't.
I think one of the issues, obviously, around the scoring criteria is, even within itself, the scoring criteria is open to interpretation.
It's not defined.
Effective aggression. How do you define effective aggression? Ring generalship. I mean, how long you got with that? Hard and clean punches, which is what you've just said there.
Yeah.
So they're and obviously defense as well. So they're 3 of the 4 kind of generally considered scoring criteria, and 3 of them are kind of but it could be this or could be that.
Punching, because again, if we go back to that, even the low blow thing. I know they say, I read some rule somewhere about the low blow thing, but obviously we had to use it crap, where it was clear.
Navel gate.
It was like, draw an imaginary line from your navel to your hip. Draw an imaginary line straight there. That's the rule. Draw an imaginary line from your navel to your hip, or something like that. It was like, what the fucking hell, to the top of your hip, or maybe it was, I don't know, something, and that should be your line. It's just like,
it's difficult. I mean, it is difficult, and you do have fights, and you do have weeks where people can argue about it, and you can see both sides, or you can kind of see a bit of the other side, even though you've got it one way, and you're not really prepared to concede that you think the other person did enough, but you're not outraged by it. So there are grey areas, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because all sports with judges must have this. Other sports that have judges must have these kinds of debates as well, I would imagine. But it's just when you get a card like that, and you just think that is impossible, that card, because it's not like Masoud was just up on his toes running around the ring, avoiding Davies and landing the odd punch.
And power wasn't a factor either.
Clearly, out-punched him all the way through the fight.
That's the thing I was going to kind of touch upon that before we move things along. That's the important thing to note, that the conversation here about scoring and the conversation about the scoring of Davies Masoud are two different things. The Davies Masoud, I mean, whatever criteria.
That was an easy fight. That was an easy fight.
Criteria.
Those cards cannot. They just should not happen.
Yeah, you can't. There's no
contentious ones. I'm fine with, because like it is a sport with judges, and it's judged by humans. It's not. You don't get some kind of. Fighters aren't wearing sensors and all that kind of stuff. It's not fencing.
Oh, don't even say it.
No, it's not fencing. So you will get debates, and I'm good with that. I think it's one of the good things about the sport. But you get some cards where there is just no possible way that if you've actually got your eyes open, you could return that score.
And don't mention punch stats. People also go, punch stats.
Oh, punch stats.
Because again, that could all happen in one fucking round, couldn't it? I mean, you can break them down, but also, they're just absolutely. They're good to watch, and they can help you, train for a fighter. He throws 15 jabs around, but against what style?
Yeah, and they don't show you. They don't show you what effect any of these punches had, and they're compiled by humans at ringside as well.
Yeah,
and what are they? Computer experts or boxing experts? Probably neither, I would say. But I mean, they're good. They're good to call up. But then we have them now, and like in the US broadcast, they're pushed off.
Oh, they love it.
But they're trying to push him out. Like, so they go to Mike Costello, bless him. They go, Mike, these are the punch stats, Mike, and he just ignores it.
I ignore punch stats.
He just ignores it, like he just carries on talking.
Barry's had it out for CompuBox since Dan Canobio introduced himself and thought you were Barry McGuigan.
Oh yeah.
My dad said that you're a fight.
It's not that they can't.
It was one of those moments. It was one of
those. 10 years older than me, you prick. No, not that. But I mean, back in Box Nation days, we used to go like, yeah, but they don't. I mean, they are good. They can be useful, and stats in sports, especially other sports, are crucial. But I just think,
but by themselves,
they're not enough.
They don't tell you.
They can give you an indication, but it can only be an indication.
But a false indication. You go, well, but he landed his 77%
they can bear
power
out,
shots.
They can bear out what you've seen. They can bear out and back up what you've seen, and all of that. But it's, I don't know. I just because they're called stats as well. It kind of, people look at them probably and feel like there's something scientific or factual about them, when I'm sure you get very, very practiced at distinguishing what is a punch and what is a power punch and what's landed and what hasn't landed, but still it is just like judges, they are human.
Just for all of the nerds who may or may not be interested, I went back and had a look at Marco Morales' previous fights that he's judged, because I'm sad. We all know this by now. One of the one standout card that he gave that people will be familiar with is he scored Maxie Hughes 116-111 over Kid Galahad. A few years back, which was, I think, at the time deemed a little bit wide, but that's pretty much it. It's predominantly German judge who does IBO contests. Obviously, this past weekend was for the IBO title. Before we move on from the main event, Barry, you're going to come to you first. What next for Shabaz Masoud? What next for Liam Davies?
Well, there's a fight now in December in Riyadh, and one can box a winner, one can box a loser. It's perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Literally.
So Dennis McCann against Peter McGrail is obviously the fight that Barry's talking about.
So the winner there boxes Masoud, and the loser boxes Davis, and then the winner boxes the loser of the winning contest.
Right, you've lost us. If you're Shabaz Masoud, do you want to be looking higher than that? Do you want me? There was a lot of talk about Liam Davies challenging for a world title.
Yeah, but maybe there is, and he will. But I mean, there's no titles up for grabs, is there? There's the one Inoue, so you want Inoue because you want the.
There's a backlog as well for him as well.
It's a backlog for him, and also it's an unwinnable fight. That's the truth of it. I mean, it's horrible to say that because he's come off his best win, and he's come off a great maybe his best performance, and so he's flying and he deserves all the accolades that he's going to get. But this you got time. You got time. You want to, and if that fight comes, that Inoue fight comes, you'll take it because it'd be good money and it'd be a really great experience. And unless you get really hurt, you might know the chance that you're going to get stopped at some point or knocked out. But if you don't get seriously bashed up, then you can come back from it because it's a new. It's almost like not a loss, is it? It's a loss, but there's a big asterisk towards it because of who it is. But you can also get seriously hurt and bashed up, and it can drain your confidence forever. By the way, so you can go along your way here. Everyone wants to be a world champion, and if the opportunity comes, you've got to take it. It might not come again. But there's some good fights, some good money fights for him to be made, and so you're lucky. Having domestic rivals is a blessing because normally not a lot of fighters get them, and when you do get them, then you can make a good money at your level and be comfortable. So Dennis McCann, Peter McGrail, I think McCann's got to be the favourite. I think he's boxed at a higher level, but McGrail is absolutely sublimely brilliant tactician and showing a bit of power lately as well, I would say. Picks his punches really well, so it's a really good fight there. Either one of those, though, Masoud is a nightmare for, by the way. I think he's more for McCann. I think he's more of a nightmare for McCann than he is for McGrail. Because McGrail is used to people who are in and out with their feet.
Yeah, high tempo.
Yeah, but it's a great fight for him, and same for Davis. Either one of those, he'd fancy him. I think McGrail can be hurt. So Davis is as much as he'll struggle hitting the target. If he hits the target clean with that right hand, then McGrail will know about it. So there's some good fights there. I mean, just do that. And with this Riyadh season, everyone's sort of working together now closely more than ever. These are fights that can be made quite comfortably, I think.
Andy, how about yourself? I mean, obviously, we mentioned on the preview show, super bantamweight, there is that backlog, but with that, comes some pretty decent names that could be available. If you're looking to kind of jump up past that domestic level, we mentioned it beforehand, Marlon Tapales, John Real Casemiro still floating about, Luis Neri, who of course come up short against Naoya in a way, or do you think domestic routes would be best suited for Shabaz Masoud?
I think that plan that Barry outlined is the best one for all involved, to be honest, because those fights will just sell a lot better, I think, and they also do fit, I think, in terms of progressing you. If you're Masoud, should you manage to beat the winner of the fight we'll see just before Christmas, and for Davis as a rehabilitation fight, which is how they'll be looking at it, but it's a proper challenge, or it will be, whichever one of the two it is. Again, I think it works.
Akhmadiliev maybe.
Yeah, he's not going to want to. He's mandatory, isn't he, for the WBA? He's going to want to.
Yeah, but he's got an interim title, haven't he?
What about Jericho O'Quinn?
Well, he's the one who knocked out McGrail, isn't he?
He hasn't boxed since.
Yeah, McGrail went to go straight back in with him, didn't he? And it didn't work out. I was fascinated to see how that was going to go. Because
McGrail dominated the first
one. He was playing with him until he got caught.
He was, but that kind of knockout, that was a bad knockout.
That was a bad knockout.
And it's early in a career, and I thought it was. I know it's easy to say, he was always going to go back in with him, which I guess he was, but people go straight back in with someone who's chinned them is bold. It's really bold.
Remember David Price with
Tony Thompson.
I thought, you got to go back in. You beat him. Same thing happened again. You just don't know do it. But I don't think O'Quinn. I wouldn't. That's.
Yeah, I was just throwing that because the name ran. The name ran.
And McGrail's he's regrouped quite well, actually. I think, like I say, early in his career, probably did him a favour, because he had time to regroup and come back, and he has. So I think there, but there's loads of good fights for him. And I think but there's no world titles up for grabs. So what are you doing? You must you're better off making money around in your area, aren't you? To be honest, I think now there's more money around them than there is if you're going to box. Anyone who's boxed a new way recently.
Yeah, I mean, there'll certainly be more. You'd think short-term gain with boxing a McCann or the winner of that, but you never. It depends on what you want to do. Position yourself for a world title. You could
look
get
at that quartet as well, and they're two Matchroom and two Queensberry, and before too long, those fights are going to become even easier to make, aren't they? Basically, not that there's been too many obstacles in recent times anyway, but it's not really a thing anymore, is it? No. Between those two houses.
No, very much so. Certainly becoming less and less by the day. Right, we're going to run through a few little bits and pieces from the undercard before we move on to the American offering from Saturday night, and then look forward to this weekend. I'm going to start with Echo Essuman. Going to come to you first. Andy, majority decision win over a very, very game Ben Vaughan. Echo Essuman, in his last few fights, has turned into quite the fighter to watch.
Yeah, he has, and I think for a while he wasn't necessarily that. I think we all kind of appreciated him as
workman-like before.
Yeah,
the
engine.
Yeah.
We all kind of appreciated him as a fighter, but as he's got a little bit older, he's maybe changed slightly, and maybe that you'd imagine that could well be a deliberate thing to seek out bigger opportunities. Maybe he feels like he needs to be more kind of appealing to the viewer, if you like. But I thought Vaughan did really, really well, and he can only get better for that, can't he? So it was kind of a win-win, wasn't it? He didn't win, but he did kind of win, because what was he going into that, 10-0?
Never been past 6 rounds. He was 10-0.
Yeah, so that's a massive step forward for him. So it was one of those fights where at the end of it, you just thought this has just been good for everybody. It was great to watch. It's good for Essuman because he won, but it's also good for Vaughan because he took a massive leap, big step up, and proved a lot.
Yeah, he looked like he was running on fumes from about the third, fourth round.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
I think it was a head clash. I think it was early on in the third round. And at the time, it looked like Essuman had got to him and started to hurt him. When you looked on the replay, it was actually a head clash. Been interesting to see what... It was sort of here. But it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if that didn't happen. Echo Essuman, after the fight, Barry called out a certain Jaron Boots Ennis.
I see you got a really good chance.
Easy work.
Ennis will probably move up to avoid him, I think.
But he's at that stage of his career now, isn't he, Essuman, where he's been around sort of British, European-ish level in a very, very top-heavy, star-studded division for a long time. He's going to want those big names, isn't he?
Of course he is. No, and you've seen other fighters who called up names and you've laughed at it. Who saw the Denzel Bentley boxing? What's his name?
Janamek.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't say his name. I know who he is. But you got the opportunity. You did quite well in this. So you think why not? I mean, you don't see it. It's not going to happen, is it? That's the truth of it. But why not? No, that was a really good fight. I enjoyed it. And Vaughan, that was for him going up, being on a big platform and showing what he could do. And I think he over exceeded expectations. I thought he really tough, bang, and like a naturally instinctive fighter when he tries to punch his way out of trouble. But Essuman just kept his cool, and in the later rounds, that keeping your cool, keeping your shape, it shows in those later rounds because his accuracy was better, much better. Vaughan was just swinging sometimes, as he started to get a bit afraid at the edges because he's running on fumes. So it seemed, but he's one of those fighters who can just keep going. Really good, naturally good engine. But he'll know how to manage a round a bit better. I know you've done those 10 rounds and 12 rounds. Once you go past those stages, you go, I know now I can do them, and you can train a little bit different, knowing the things you've missed out, things you didn't know you had to add until you've done it. So he'll be a better fighter for that. No one wants to lose, and it's disappointing. But he's put himself in the shop window because people want to see him again, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And he's good enough to be competitive. I think that's the thing at that domestic level. So there's good fights out there for him. Essuman, I don't know where he goes really. I don't see with Essuman. I just think he's really good at where he is. I don't want to slag him off because he did really well, but I don't see him going beyond where he is. There's no shame in that, and I might be wrong, and let's hope I am wrong. But people always think that if you think you can't go to world level, that you're slagging him off, and you're not. I mean, world level at the minute is Ennis. If that's the benchmark, then that's a hard night's work for anybody.
Brian Norman got the welterweight world title in the WBO. You think he's maybe something that he can do there? Obviously, that was for the WBO intergalactic title. What was it? WBO European. So he'll have a ranking.
Yeah. Listen, you take again. I said this.
You'll always take the fight. Yeah,
you'll take whatever you can get, and maybe you will get an opportunity because you watch his style, you just go, he's not a big puncher, so maybe I can bash him up If you think you're genuine, especially all the Yanks think British fighters are crap, don't they? They do. They still do. To this day, they still do. And so like. I think I bash him up, but but his engine, the way he works, and the way he can dig it out, and I think he has a bit more experience now, so he's a bit cuter than he was a few years ago. He's a hard night's work, and unless you're genuinely world class. So with Norman, I think he is, but we're not quite 100% sure, but I think he is. So I think there's hard nights there for Essuman. So but also, what is he? 34, 35?
I think
he's about that, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think he's a bit older than what you think he is, Essuman.
He's 35.
Yeah. So again, why not just take the leap, innit? But I don't think he gets the opportunity. That's the truth of it.
Yeah, I mean you're reliant on
Yeah.
somebody giving you an opportunity, aren't you, and selecting you, which you never know may happen. I think Shakram Girsov is the mandatory for Brian Norman Jr.
I mean, you wonder whether something might happen for him. Saudi woods.
So what he said after, didn't he? He's like on the 5v5.
He's paid his dues, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And that could be a route for him to land a decent profile fight, a big fight for more money than he's made before.
I'd watch him against the winner of Lewis Crocker and Conor Walker.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Sorry.
But that's
Yeah.
I really would. I think that would be.
That would be
I
decent.
think that could be a cracker.
One of those, isn't it?
Okay, before we move things on, I'm just going to quickly touch upon Chantel Cameron, Andy, who returned with a dominant win over Patricia Berghult. She still seems to be kind of, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but sort of treading water, looking for a big fight. Obviously, we've got Katie Taylor against Amanda Serrano next Friday. That's coming around very, very quickly. But looking quite well under the new stewardship of Grant Smith at the Steel City.
Yeah, she's a really good fighter, and she has been for a long time. She is in a bit of a difficult position though, because she's a cut above somebody like Berghult, and she showed that on the night. Although it was a good fight, it was a decent fight to watch. Everybody's talking about Katie Taylor, but unfortunately for Cameron, I just don't see that happening, because that wasn't really, even though it's 1-1, I never felt like a trilogy was in the offing there, because for Taylor, she wanted to fight Cameron to become undisputed in the second weight division. She lost the first fight, so she then wanted the rematch and got the rematch and then won it, and therefore has got what she's wanted from that relationship. She doesn't want a third fight, Katie Taylor. She's already done what she wanted to do. So I don't see that happening. And I wonder whether, and of course you call for it after the fight. Of course you do, because it'd be silly not to. But I just kind of hope that behind closed doors, she kind of knows that isn't going to happen. Yeah, I'll say it because I have to say it. It'd be weird if I didn't say it, but actually they're trying to make other plans, because I don't think that's going to happen, is it?
Yeah,
I mean you can't say definitely not. But
it's not looking incredibly likely. No, fight that I do quite like though, if we could see it, would be Chantel Cameron against Sandy Ryan.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I mean, you presume she can go to welterweight because she's a woman, and they just move up and down weights. No, I mean, if she can go to welterweight and still be strong enough, which I think she could. But
there's loads at welterweight, isn't there?
Of course there is. You've got the best welterweight in the world in Lauren Price, I think. By the way, Natasha Jonas is she will, and they will. Everyone in her cat will argue she's the best welterweight in the world. You got Michaela Meyer, who's always a fan-friendly fighter. She'll think she's the best in the world, and Sandy Ryan, who I thought beat Meyer, but it was close. Can't argue with that. And I didn't think Sandy Ryan boxed very well against Meyer. I think she could box better, and I still thought she won. But it was close. It was a close scrap. But but they're all good fights, aren't they? I mean, the one you want to stay away from is Price, because she can just make you pay all night, I think. And the way she fights as well, Cameron, her against Sandy Ryan or Michaela Meyer, are great fights to watch. I mean, that's where you make your money, isn't it? The fights like that, you don't have to have rematches. You can just have a round robin, them lot, because they're all the only one. The Jonas, you tend to think is probably at the end of her career. I mean, she's still fresh enough to beat everyone except for Lauren Price. I think the styles are wrong for her, but I still think that But she'll be looking for one big pay deal, I think, now, or two before she gets out.
Yeah, she basically said that.
She's been long enough now, and she's had a couple of big wins. I think Maya's still ambitious.
Yeah,
definitely. I think massively ambitious, and Sandy Ryan loves to fight. And also my Welsh friend, she still really wants to make a name for herself properly. She's been a world champion and she's been an Olympic champion, but I think she wants to cement herself in the professional game by having a few defences and beating a few rivals. So it helps everyone if she moves up to welter, if she can, and still maintain her attributes of being physically strong. 'Cause without that strength, Cameron has a good jab, but mainly it's the strength of her, the physical presence. And without that, if she moves up to welterweight against those girls, and that's not her presence is not as intimidating, then she's half the fighter she is. So no, don't move up if you lose that, because at super lightweight, she's a real she's just too big and powerful for everybody except for Katie Taylor. But that's Katie Taylor, who's a freak of nature, to be honest. But I think that's the if I can have. I think what's Taylor's got. I mean, I don't think Katie Taylor retires.
No, I don't either.
I mean, I think she should. She's done enough.
I don't think she does.
No, I think she, because some people just love the sport, don't they? So, no, what's so wrong for her? Say she beats Serrano, which she should, because she's naturally bigger. She's all the advantages in her corner. But what if she does again? And then where does she go then? Who's around for her? There's no. That's the obvious fight for her, isn't it? Unless she goes up to welterweight. But I don't think she's anywhere effective at welterweight. No, but I mean, that's the only. I mean, for names,
you make a good
that's
point.
the fight, isn't it? Other than that,
if she doesn't really want to fight, Caroline Dubois would be a really good fight. But if she doesn't want to do that,
I don't think she does. I don't think she wants to go. Maybe she just wants to go down to lightweight again. Yeah, that's one thing.
I could see her retiring after the Soraya fight. Why not?
I think she should. I think it'd be a great way to, especially a win.
I would imagine she'll make a very, very handsome. I don't profess to know Katie Taylor at all well, but I imagine it's particularly about the money. But it's always a little bit about the money. You're getting paid big money to go and fight on that card next week, and she wins. But maybe it's a similar fight to the first Serrano fight where she takes a few and she finishes.
Yeah, she's had some hard fights now.
She's been boxing. So as we all know, it's not just the fights that she's had. She's been in camps and fighting in tournaments and away from home.
If you think about she had 20 real hard rounds against Masoud, 20 real hard rounds against Cameron, 10 really difficult ones against Serrano. You'd predict another 10 come the 15th. Yeah. That's and that's just a handful of fights I mentioned there, and the rest of them have been
some hard fights early in her career as well. Yeah. Like
Jessica McCaskill.
Jessica McCaskill was I couldn't remember her name.
At York Hall.
I remember that. Yeah. So and then just that incredibly long amateur career where she was under tons of pressure all the time, as well as the physical side of it. She's been a superstar for a really long time.
Well, it showed, didn't it? In her last Olympics, it showed. She looked like she was dipping, I thought. And when she turned pro, I thought they might wait too long here. I got that wrong, totally wrong. But I mean, I just thought, some people, because you can't keep that. I mean, to keep that excellence of performances that she's done for so long is almost impossible. Yeah, I mean, it helps that some of the women that haven't been able to stand it, that's the truth. But she's also been fortunate and unfortunate to have some really good fighters around her. That's why I think you can argue that when people say who's the greatest woman of all time, her or Carissa Shields, undefeated and never looked really close to getting beat. That's the truth of it. But she haven't had the quality of depth that Katie Taylor's had to come up against. That's the truth as well. So there's a valid argument, even though she's lost and been in harder fights, Taylor, that she might be the best woman of all time.
Yeah, it's a smaller pool of talent the higher up you go in the weights, as we know. So as current heavyweight champion Clarissa Shields, by the way, which
who was bigger than the girl she boxed.
You see, also just kind of flicking through Katie Taylor's resume now. She boxed Vivian Obanoff in her second fight.
Yeah.
Vivian Obanoff, of course, stopped Natasha Jonas. Yeah, she is in prison. Yeah, she's for murder. She's the Black Widow. Yeah, she murdered her allegedly. I don't know when to get sued by Vivian Obanoff. But yeah, apparently, so she's in prison now. Shout out Vivian Obanoff. Or not, Anyway, moving on and talking about the American offering this Saturday night. Barry, a few months removed from a very, very contentious first time around between Robson Conceicao and O'Shaquie Foster. O'Shaquie Foster rights the wrong, if indeed you did see it that way. the right decision this weekend?
Yeah, I think it was the right decision. But again, we spoke about this earlier, didn't we? But off air, but much closer. This one, much closer. Conceicao was better, I thought, but I think it was the right win. I think Foster won. I think he was neater with his work, more purchase on the shots, which shouldn't have an effect on the score. If you know, no. But no, I thought I didn't agree totally with what the guys were saying in the commentary. That I think they had Conceicao massively ahead early, and I wasn't quite sure about that. But yeah, it was good. It was a good fight. I enjoyed it actually. It was nothing great happened, but it was
a better fight than the first.
Yeah,
fight,
it was. It was
an
intriguing watch. Wasn't it? Everything was cleaner. And if Conceicao could turn his hands over every punch, he'd be a much better fighter. He's still boxing with, like, if he wears those amateur gloves, he's hitting with the fingers all the time. And he's like he's got the gloves longer. He got really long arms, and he looks like he's punching and there's nothing on the end of the gloves. You know what I mean? Like,
he wears those Adidas gloves as well, which I always feel look really long.
Yeah,
it's because they're foam and they
can't make a fist with them, can you? So you can't turn your hands over. But,
they do look huge, those Adidas gloves.
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I see a fighter wearing them, I never see them knock anyone out. wearing those Adidas.
But I also think as well with that fight, people saying, talking about the other week about what does Foster have to do to change? He did try to be more aggressive, but I thought he didn't have to change. Cause I think the whole perception of him getting robbed, which I thought he won the first fight. We all thought he won the first fight, and there was an injustice. That however much a judge shouldn't have anything in his mind up until, except for what's going on in that one particular round. You're human, aren't you? So you are going to think this. If this guy can get it right, I'm going to give him the fight. You shouldn't.
I think that does happen. Yeah.
So Conceicao will probably say that happened. He was quite gracious in defeat, I thought, wasn't he? Reading some of the clips, he said, I thought I boxed really well, but I didn't get it, and that's how it goes. That's a great attitude to have. But that will change now. He'll start to go, that was a close fight, and I won. And if one for the judge in the first fight, but then he's admitted he didn't win the first fight, then, isn't he?
He'll come up with something else, but he'll come up with something.
Yeah. But I thought it was the right winner in a much closer fight than the first fight, but they got it right. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say, considering obviously he got the win this time around, but I thought Sharky Foster's, he started off engaging a lot more with Conceicao than he did in the first fight, and I thought it went against him, because I thought he won the first fight clearer than he won the first fight clearer than he won the fight at the weekend. But a good win for him nonetheless. Andy, another fighter in Sharky Foster who's kind of had his ups and downs, even pre the Robson Conceicao fight earlier on this year, but has himself back with a world title now at super featherweight, which is a division that's still kind of up for grabs at 130 pounds, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it looks that way. He'll be relieved that he's managed to get the title back, because I think he's the kind of fighter and the kind of, I think he would feel that he would be easily frozen out if he hadn't managed to win the rematch, get the rematch and win the rematch. He's kind of an interesting guy, actually. I spoke to him a bit over in Dubai when he was on that Pro Bellum card, and he's got the same trainer as Prod Gray, and there's a bit of a backstory there and all the rest of it, and I found him quite interesting, but I wasn't necessarily convinced that, I don't know why, I just felt that he might be one of these people who would struggle to get opportunities, because
he wasn't impressive that night, was he?
I
was sat there watching.
Yeah,
I sat in every ringside seat, actually.
So I was kind of kind of pleased, really. You speak to someone, it's not like you know them, but I kind of liked him. He seemed like a good guy, and he did get the opportunity and he took it, and then you lose, but you get the rematch and you win it back, and you just think, okay, well, he's paid his dues now, and he probably deserves something. He deserves something big, but like you say, that division's kind of, it's not exactly obvious, I wouldn't say. No,
it's very, very kind of spread thin. So you've got Emmanuel Navarreto, who's the WBO champion. He's rematching Oscar Valdez.
He wants a winner of that, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, Navarreto's not the fight that he was at Super.
Also, as great a fight as that was the first time around, it was a very good fight. Yeah. I don't think it really warranted a rematch. There was a very clear winner of it in Navarreto. Obviously, he's moved up and lost to Denis Barinchik.
But super featherweight,
not Ivan Barinchik, you lazy analysts. You know who you are. But anyway, and then the IBF, Anthony Kakachi, WBC, Sharky Foster, WBA, Lamont Roach, and they've got two because it's the WBA, Albert Batigaziev, of course, the Olympic gold medalist. Yes, up at super feather, as is a certain Lee Wood, ranked at number 5 in the WBC. So you remember him? Remember Lee Wood?
I think I saw him on camera at ringside. Was he? I think he was there.
He was at ringside. He gave
was there as
he gave a brilliant interview to Boxing News where he said that he couldn't get hold of Frank Smith, and then he was there. Oh, Frank, how are you? And Frank was like, who are you?
I think Joe. Yeah, you mean Cordina?
Cordina, yeah. He different
was,
super featherweight.
That's kind of. He doesn't say a lot, Joe Cordina, but what he kind of did say, and also what he didn't say in that clip was sort of interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's very kind of. I don't know, because I think because the way that Joe Cordina boxes and the way that he looks, he comes from a fucking we've spoken about this in the past.
He won't take any shit. He won't.
Yeah,
I mean, which you got to be careful. He doesn't, because he looks all like angelic and all that, doesn't he? But he'll blow his top. He will.
Yeah,
I hope not.
You've got to be wary of these Cardiff boys. These Cardiff super feathers.
He'd be telling people to fuck off. They would all be in the boot in his car, go back to Cardiff, all of them. Eddie, Frank, all of them.
Anyway, back to this stuff. You were saying about Lee Wood. Yeah, he's appeared in the WBC rankings at number 5. Just kind of flicking through for some of the domestic interest. Number 6 in the IBF is Zelfa Barrett. Obviously, kind of just being ranked across all these things.
Lee was probably wondering what he's done wrong, isn't he?
Yeah.
Hang on a second. What have I? What do people think I've done? Does somebody think that I've said something, or that because he's just sort of in limbo, isn't he? Because he was waiting for Warrington, that didn't happen. Then obviously he got beaten by Chukhadzhian, and that was the one, wasn't it?
Well, he was boxing in the City Ground, and all of a sudden he's not boxing at all.
The 7th of October. It was the last time he boxed last year. So it's over a year now, and nothing slated as of yet. There was rumours about him boxing in Monaco on the Matchroom card over there.
But also, with him, he might. You see, when you earn good money in certain fights, apparently I wouldn't know this, but then your worth is your last payday. If your last payday was your biggest payday, then anything less than that, even though it's a lesser fight, you're going, well, hang on a minute. I got paid £1 million or whatever, just for argument's sake, or 100 grand, no matter what it is. You're going to, I'm not boxing for 50 grand or $500,000 now, because I got paid that. And then the promoter will go, well, that's not worth that because you're boxing this guy on this show. And it's like, I
mean, over the course of the last year or so, we've seen Lee Wood and obviously Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith from Matchroom talk about the fact that he wanted to box at the City Ground. Obviously, we want to box at the City Ground, as we all know. Hiring a stadium is fraught with difficulties, both kind of logistically and financially. It's not cheap to hire a football stadium, particularly a Premier League one. And then
we all just kind of assume that the club will be absolutely mad for it.
But
they're not, are they?
They're not.
Their pitch they want to
exactly.
Start.
And TV companies don't want to go
and they don't need it, do they?
No.
It's not like they need boxing at their football club. Like Crystal Palace decided they wanted it because it was the centenary or 125th or something like that in the summer. So they were fundamental in making that happen. But generally, a Premier League football club, they don't need the money that will come in from being hired out for the night for boxing.
And Lee Wood, as you mentioned there, is
mega for TV companies. And much more.
Lee Wood, as you mentioned there, is at the stage of his career now. I think he wants a big fight, as most people do when they get to their mid to late 30s.
Foster's a big fight for him, isn't it?
Is it big money fight? Can it generate?
I don't know, but it's a American fight if he wants that. If he wants to go there, maybe. But then, why does Foster want him? Because again, you want Lee Wood because you can draw a big crowd and you might get more money for going over here, coming over here. Maybe, I don't know.
But then you get back into it's just like that bounce back thing where it's like, okay, well if Sharky Foster's coming over here, he wants paying because if he's not travelling to defend his world title in Nottingham for you to win it, Lee Wood, he wants this. So if you want him to come over to Nottingham, and you're going to have to take this. That's how it works. Doesn't it? This is that's how it works. So
but it's not always the guy who got the belt who calls the shots. So I mean, it quite often is, but not.
It's the one who brings the money.
The one who brings the money.
Yeah,
that's what people say about the A side. The A side is not the best fighter.
So you do feel like Chukhadzhian probably his next best option because I know he's got Nunez. He's got the mandatory with Nunez, but Chukhadzhian's in his mid-30s as well. And how much does he care about that IBF title? Would he rather box Lee Wood again? It's Saudi, like that's another Queensbury matchroom if they were to do another 5 versus 5. Like you've always got to think about that angle now.
Particularly
Chukhadzhian, he's been the thing with Chukhadzhian now. He's won a world title. He's a world champion for the rest of his life now. Whatever happens, he's been a world champion. So he's stamped that. No, it is about the money for him, especially this age. You'd be thinking this like Lee Wood, whether who cares about the title or something.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be bothered.
I mean, I know he didn't get stripped.
Fight,
I was going to say, I know he didn't get stripped for it, but that wasn't a title fight, was it?
No,
well, if he'd have lost, he would have lost the title, all right? Was that what it was?
Yeah,
so
that's right.
So they didn't recognise. What's his name? Warrington.
Yeah, Warrington. Who? Yeah.
Wasn't good enough to win.
I say one name that's in and amongst there. He's ranked in the top 5 or whatever. One of my pet favourites, Mark Magsayo. I really like Mark Magsayo. Devastating puncher from the Philippines. He's always good for a scrap. Sharky Foster.
It's good to see how effective he is as super feather.
Did you see him knock that guy out? Like his first fight at super featherweight, he like knocked him out with a left hook, like he was running, and it was the perfect collision. He's had some of the most brutal knockouts. Mark Magsayo. I remember I can't remember, he was on a Canelo undercard, and he was getting Julio Ceja was absolutely pinging him all over the place, and then he stood him up with a right hand, folded him in half. I can't remember what Canelo fight it was. On a Canelo undercard.
And he's hittable as well.
Yeah, he's great to watch. He's brilliant value, like proper, like he's like reminds me a little bit of John Real Casemiro, just two like massive punching Filipinos who just game as anything, a massive head. Anyway, right?
Can't make the weight.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Okay, let's touch upon just before we move on and preview this weekend. Actually, before we do that, what do we want to see from Sharky Foster? We want to see what do we want to see? Do we want to see the Lee Wood fight? Do we want to see him unify Navarrete Valdez winner? Lamont Roach is kind of in the Gervonta Davis sweepstakes at the minute, so
he'll worry because it's in house as well. Isn't it? He'll think Navarrete Valdez. He'll probably want what's the best fight financially for him? Valdez probably.
Either one of those, I think.
Either one of them.
Yeah, but I was trying to think which one carries the more worth financially. I'm not quite sure, but either way, he'll want that money because it's in house, it's easy to make, and it gives him a unification. And then you got to pick up the title, so you won't be looking at people like the people we're talking about, unless because he won't want. I don't think he won't want to leave the States, will he? Why would he take away any advantage he has? And you're talking mega money, and I can't see where that comes from. Yeah. With Kakachi Kakachi got a belt, but then Kakachi will travel. That's the thing. I think he'll have to travel. And like every boxer now, they just all want to go to Saudi.
I was going to say, Kakachi said after the fight that he's only fighting in Saudi from now on, didn't he?
They want to go to
generously,
Saudi.
Just to let you know, Turkey, I'm here.
That's good. You can't blame him. I knew he was over there the other day, wasn't he?
Yeah,
still is. Yeah. I mean, if I was the Saudi people, I wouldn't let him leave. I mean, he can go in there. He's staying here forever.
Have you ever seen him punch, man? You get out of there quickly.
Punch, I'm a bit bigger than him and all that. I'm seasoned.
I was going to say, you'll old man him.
No one knows how to go down like me. That didn't sound right, did it?
No, it didn't.
I mean, keep that loads of people who go down better than me.
keep that one in.
But, but I mean, I wouldn't let him go. He'd stay forever. You're living here now, and you're going to box here forever. I'm just watching.
That was announced today, was it? I don't know the exact inner workings of it, but it looks as though there's a sponsorship deal of sorts, and tremendous sums of money that they're talking about for him to be a Riyadh season ambassador. Apparently, according to reports, that it doesn't include that he must fight in Saudi Arabia, so we could see a Riyadh season in Tokyo. Oh, nice. I mean, Turkey gives us in a way against Junto Nakatani. I mean, you would think that there's enough money to make that fight, because it's kind of the way that we break things down now, isn't it? Is there enough money to make it without Saudi money or whatever? You'd think there would be for that, but a little bit of Saudi money swings the pot for everyone. So you could still be a Riyadh season event.
At least I thinking, well, it's worth this much now, which I would have took before, but now I got this money over there. Yeah. We'll just say no, it's not enough.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these things do depend on what Turkey Al Sheikh's plans actually are, and the answer is none of us really know, do we? Bob Arum said the other week, he's been kind of reined in by the people above him. They don't want him going outside of Riyadh as much as he's maybe planning to, and people talking about percentages of outlays for the private investment fund and stuff like that. But we don't know.
And why should we care?
Yes,
I mean, for boxing, if we just want to see, I say this all the time about, we shouldn't be interested in what fighters are getting. We shouldn't be caring about fighters' feelings. I mean, as boxing fans, we all want to see the best fights, but we all go, it doesn't make financial sense for. What do we give a shit for?
Yeah,
and we're going to talk about it, of course, and we're going to say this won't happen because he wants more money. But ultimately, I don't care what a fighters get. I want every fight to win billions. I want every fight to be healthy. I want every fight to win a world title and all that shit. But ultimately, I just want to see good fights because I'm a boxing fan. Yeah. I want to see the best fight the best if we can, and also I want to see. And if the best not fighting the best, I want to see the other guys who are not the best fight each other and be in good fights, because that's what makes the sport grow. Yeah. I mean, all TV companies, they invest in stars, and they don't invest in the sport. If you invest in the sport, I think it takes a bit longer, because it's not my money, it's easy for me to say. But ultimately, you will produce stars, but the sport will continue to grow because every fight's will be competitive. And I think we've had more of that now in the last couple of years than we ever had before, since back in the day where where world champions were harder to come by. You know, so people had to box each other at a more domestic level, so you had more rivals and better fights, but it was all at a lower level. It was perceived at a lower level. It's still that level now, but just the British level now is deemed as world level nowadays. Because you win a British title, and then in the next fight you box for a world title, and maybe everyone's got better. I don't know. I just think the world's got smaller and more opportunities because when you win a British title, you also win an international title, and you get a top 10 rating in the world. And I benefit from that. And I thank you. but what I mean is, though, because you're a real boxing fan, you just look back and see. You just want to see competitive fights. So who gives a shit what they're getting? As long as they're happy and they're getting paid and they're healthy and they come out okay. Even then, I shouldn't give a shit about that, about what happens to them after they retire. We just selfishly should want to see good fights, with not having the bloodthirst of seeing people injured.
Yeah, it's just,
ban the sport. I would.
There's always a temptation now to kind of
overanalyze it.
Yeah, overanalyze, like, what's their end game? What's the business plan? Is that making the money back and all this stuff? That doesn't matter for us. It doesn't matter for us. You look at what's been going on the last 18 months. Really, really good fights are getting made. Some fights have been made that we didn't think we would see, but now we have seen, and that's just just a great thing to have and to be involved in. But one thing I think what you can do is look back through kind of boxing history and see what generally has worked, and like you said, you do have to take care of different levels of the sport, because that's what brings fighters through. You have to have that ladder to bring fighters through. You can't just be concentrating on the top end, because you run out of fights, because the fighters who are stepping up the ladder to replace the ones who retire or fall off the top, you need to keep that stream coming, and if you don't, then you will just run out of fights.
And that's why the amateurs code, if it's called that now, I don't know what it's called, is so important, because, and that's why boxing in the Olympics is so important, because kids aspire to be something. Now, you can't aspire to be a world champion, professional champion when you're 10. You can, but there's a process you have to go through. So winning an ABA or a British schoolboy title, all those things are part of the process. And then going to Commonwealth Games and European Championships. Luckily, the Commonwealth Games, which have cut back on loads of sports, have kept boxing for the Glasgow Commonwealth Games, which is a real godsend. But like, those things are important, because then you have aspirations to go through. And once you get there, then you do want to turn pro. And then you have a star, ready-made star. That's brilliant. But all the others don't always win the medals, so you have to go through the process. The amateur sport helps you be a better professional, because you learn the game, and then you learn the game again in a different format. But you've learned the basics, the fundamentals that take you to that make you ultimately an Andre Ward, or I'm trying to think how you did the fundamentals and won. Just doing the fundamentals. People like that, Ray Leonard's, people like that who did the fundamentals perfectly. I don't know where we're going here. Ultimately, it all started with this. If a Nui ever comes here again, right? I think I got told off. I did by somebody in BT Sport. Fuck, I'm telling them, right? It's no longer a company now, is it? I tweeted on Facebook. I put when a Nui boxing. He boxed in Glasgow, like he boxed over here, and I said, go if you live in Glasgow, get yourself across the SSE Arena to watch. Josh Taylor become a world champion because he's boxing British, and I was so sure he was going to win it. And I said it was on Sky. That's what problem I had.
He smashed Manny Rodriguez, didn't he?
And I said, and to watch Nui, because you might never see him in this country ever again. Like I just thought, you've got to see this kid. Like, we all knew about him, but the public didn't know about him. And then and someone moaned and groaned about it, and I had a phone call from the producer from BT.
The same night they had a show on BT, didn't they? Yeah, Billy Joe Saunders against Shifat Asufi. But it was. But I wasn't. That's where you should have gone if you were in Glasgow. Just drive all the way down.
I understand that, but by the way, I don't. Like, they're on a contract. They're getting paid per show.
Shifat Asufi.
I'm getting paid per show. That's why they just get rid of you, can't they? I understand. I don't criticise it.
Barry had the last laugh because now Queensberry are on the zone.
No, I'm not blaming Queensberry, by the way. I'm not blaming it, but I just say, like, I didn't say tune into Sky. Don't watch. I just say, if you live in Glasgow, by the way, go along to see these. You might never, you won't. You're going to see Josh Taylor, who was at that time our best fighter and was for a long time our best fighter in the UK. Like, to win a world title, he went on to be undisputed, and watch Nui, who's now pound for pound top 3 easily, and I like to see him. So I told you.
6 years he's been waiting for Queensbury to move to the zone
Yeah,
so he
no.
can get off his chest.
I
We've got to move on.
Yeah.
We've got to move
That's
on.
not going to help
We've
me,
got-
is it?
I don't know what we've been talking about
Just
for the
to
last 20
summarise
minutes.
how we got there.
I knew he's going to live in Saudi now, that's the whole thing.
What we were talking
Don't
about
let
is
him go.
how you need to take care of all kind of levels of the sport, and that means the amateurs, but you have to have that pathway there which people can identify. But then if you fall off that one and that doesn't work out, you need to have that pathway where you can turn pro and still make it via the small halls, which somebody like, Warrington did recently.
Yeah.
Or that all needs to be in place, or these big names, they will dwindle.
Right, speaking of which, before we move on, see Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan have both been accepted by World Boxing.
Yeah, I
Nice.
did see that. And-
Because,
and
we
that's-
weren't off track enough. Let's
and
talk about that.
That is big news.
Really important.
But Kazakhstan, they did seem to declare a few weeks ago that they'd made that move, but then they did send fighters to IBA's World Youth Championships that just finished in Montenegro
Already booked accommodation.
at the weekend, as did Uzbekistan. But World Boxing made that announcement today, I think.
Yeah. Kazakhstan,
Guatemala
Uzbekistan,
and Laos have come over as well. So
Yeah,
they're,
Guatemala
Wales.
and Laos.
so they're
In the youth championships. We just won a world. Was that the
Well,
first?
Yours about
there's-
the youths
there's the
that was
World
on
Youth.
recently.
there was two going at the same time. World
so
Boxing
two
had
going.
their-
Okay, sorry,
had
two going.
theirs in America, their first one, under 19s, they've described it
Yeah.
as in America. So that whole situation is developing and getting very interesting. But one thing that
Confused me.
no one seems really that clear on is exactly who is with who in some ways. It doesn't.
It's like the
What are the
Bloods
numbers?
and the Crips in amateur boxing at
Yeah.
the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's massive. If
Yeah.
Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan have gone over
Particularly Uzbekistan.
to World Boxing, then it just makes you wonder what in that case will IBA do. Will they start to concentrate more on their pro series? Will they kind of not give up the fight necessarily, but look at it as being one that they now realise they can't really win because but
It
just
looks
stay,
as though
but
with
just
the
stay in
IBA,
it.
it looks like they've tried to go down the pro stuff, doesn't it? Or Batigaziev and
Yeah.
Gadzi Magomedov and those guys.
So
Right.
I got to say, all those world boxing fighters now, all the countries who've joined up with them, we're all going, yes, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan have joined up, and they're all going, oh, for fuck's sake.
It'll be Cuba
Why?
next.
Why? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we can beat Laos. But anyway, right, let's move on and talk about this weekend's offering. We're going to start off on Friday night back in Norfolk, Virginia, for the return of the other lightweight from Norfolk, Virginia, Keyshawn Davis, Barry, in a very, very good fight against Gustavo Lemos. Of course, Gustavo Lemos, somebody who's campaigned recently up at 140 pounds, gets down to 135. And to me,
Sorry.
so, but I was going to say, to me, he looks like somebody at 135 pounds, considering the problems that he gave Richardson Hitchens at 140, could be quite the handful this weekend.
But I don't, because he's already highly rated in the lightweight division, isn't he? In all organisations.
Yeah.
I think he might be above Davis in a couple of them.
But
I'm sure.
he boxed Hitch. Oh, let's break down the fight. I'll do the nerdy ranking stuffs.
But I think Keyshawn Davis is close to being left the leash. I do. Well, this is the fight for him. I think he comes through this in flying colours, which I think he comes through it. I'm not sure he comes through with flying colours. I think he's going to have some hard moments there. But he's another guy who just slows things down or speeds him up. He dictates the pace all the time. He's lucky because he's gifted with a real long wingspan.
Wondering where you were going with that for a minute.
What's
But
that?
anyway, go on. Wondering where you were going with that for a
Massive,
minute.
like.
But anyway.
Massive wingspan he got. I know. Something you should be proud of. But I mean, but he can walk you down with it as well. I mean, he has the power of it. He picks the shots really well. He forces you with the front foot to make a mistake, and then makes you miss and makes you pay with shots. There's a kid who sees everything. When he's on form, you can see him orchestrating everything in there. He's quite enjoyable to watch, I think. Even in dominant performances, I think the way he breaks you down, he doesn't rush anything. But then when he can put his punches together as good as anybody in that weight class. He's a real special talent, I think, and I think this is a hard night for him. But this is a guy who's not going to conform to some of the things he does. Are going to make him feel the pace a little bit, possibly if he can. So we'll see where he's at. But I do think it's the right fight for Davis. So I do, the right fight for him. And I think I'm such a fan of it. I just can't see how he doesn't win. Do I say it? I think he wins quite impressively.
Interesting. We'll come on to our kind of prediction section in a short while. That's all right.
Charge double.
Andy, £135 has been stacked in recent years. A lot of young talent coming through the ranks. Keyshawn Davis has built quite nicely, sort of not quite in the shadows. Obviously, he's a huge prospect and he's getting plenty of airtime from Top Rank and ESPN. But Anthony Yigit, Francesco Patera, Jose Pedraza, Miguel Magdueno, and then Gustavo Lemos. It seems to be like this is the one before the big one.
Yeah, I think so.
While Gustavo Lemos is a very, very good fighter, a win this weekend for Keyshawn Davis, and he should be there or thereabouts.
Yeah, I think so. I remember talking to Carl Moretti about him a while ago, and that was when they were matching him with like Yigit and Patera, and he was asking about Patera and just saying, look, like we're quite keen to get him a European guy, another European guy, and Patera kind of reputationally good body puncher, and said, what do you think of that? And I just said, yeah, I think that's perfectly sound idea, and they've always had a lot of confidence in him, and where they place their confidence is generally quite telling because they don't get it wrong often, and I do think that I wouldn't say this is necessarily one too many. I feel like they could maybe have let him off the leash, as Barry described it, a bit earlier than this, but it wouldn't necessarily have been. I don't think they've kept him on it too long, but he's straining to get off it.
No opportunities there, really.
No, that's true. But he's been straining at the leash for a while, I would say.
I thought Patera gave him a good fight. I thought Patera was really good that night. I mean, he's had some competitive fights. I mean,
he's a proper apprenticeship.
Yeah, he wins well. But I mean, as you should do, Olympic silver medalist, and all of the hysteria about him coming out of the amateurs. I mean, people
he lost to Cruz, who's almost like winning a gold, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it was what we were talking about earlier with losing to a new pros. Like, oh well, okay. But yeah, I do expect this to be a tough fight. Lemos, I thought, beat Richardson Hitchens, and I didn't think it was. Don't get me wrong, I thought there were some competitive rounds. You can see why, but I thought he was a clear winner in a close fight, as we like to say over here. Comes forward, he's knocked out Lee Selby as well. Yeah. Obviously, Lee Selby, up in weight and age at that time, but should be a fierce challenge, I think, for Keyshawn Davis, who I don't know. This thing with watching Davis, he gets hit a lot. I don't think he's like the other lightweight from Norfolk, Virginia, Pernell Whitaker. I don't think he's not. But he tries to be more aggressive. So he tries to get on a bit. So he is going to take shots. He does sit on the back foot. He does make you miss. I think he takes the sting out of the shots, and I think he will against Lemos as well. To be honest, I think he'll be able to do that better than certainly Richardson Hitchens could. And so I do think he has enough about him to do it. And I think because he's had all those hard fights and those proper apprenticeship fights, that he's seasoned for his level. So this is another fight where this is the last one before he goes, isn't he? I think. No, they can't, because again they've been waiting around a bit too long. And also, you know what Top Rank are like? They match make brilliantly, but ruthlessly as well. So if something happens on Friday, then they chuck him back in the deep end, and then they get rid of him.
That's true, yeah.
They do, don't they? They don't mess around, do they? I don't get rid of him as such, but then you're all of a sudden you become the test for others until you prove you're back to where you were. They invest their money, but they want to get a return. Once they decide we're going to get a return, they don't mess around with it. They'll cut their losses and run.
Let's say all being well, and he emerges victorious over Gustavo Lemos this weekend, Andy. Where to for him? He was calling out Teofimo Lopez after his last fight. Obviously, Lopez up at 100. Where to for him? Anyway, called out Teofimo Lopez, of course, up at £140. Vasily Lomachenko, we're still kind of none the wiser as to what his plans are. Denis Baranchik, not Ivan Baranchik, is a belt holder as well with WBO. He's Queensbury, K2, but obviously boxed on the Top Rank show, so I'm not quite sure if the business is right. They can get him back over there. You can see Keyshawn Davis against Denis Baranchik. What do you think is the most likely route for him?
I think it might be the one you just outlined there, because the relationships, a relationship is is there.
WBO on Top Rank as well.
Yeah,
quite tight.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I mean, I'd love to see that. I think that would be a good fight. I think that'd be. I was kind of surprised that Berinchik got there, to be honest, because his career was a slow burn, and I don't know how much he really needed it because he was a big star. People probably don't realise, but he's a big star in Ukraine and has been for a long time. He did a bit of bare knuckle, you know. He attracted a lot of attention. Basically, whatever he did their Dancing with the Stars, stuff like that. But fair dues to him. He wasn't boxing regularly either.
They waited patiently, didn't they?
Yeah,
for that
they
shot.
stuck with him, and then took their chance. It was the same night, wasn't it? It's Fury Usyk.
Emmanuel Navarrete.
There
Yeah, it was
go.
afterwards. I remember speaking to.
Not many people fancied him in that fight.
Not at all. And then, but to be fair, when I saw Navarrete turn up, he was, I mean, never a lightweight. Like, I mean, I'm glad that he's back down at 130 pounds now. But yeah, was beaten really conclusively as well on the night. Berinchik dominated the fight.
Berinchik looks like a really beatable fighter who's hard to beat. I said this was someone else before, but
Chris Bloomsbury.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Well done, good memory. But he doesn't, because he looks really beatable. There's nothing about him. You look at him, you just go, nah, I don't know.
So one of those guys who's like,
that good.
if you say, I mean, how many amateur fights do you think he had?
Oh God, he would have had a lot.
Hundreds of amateur fights, but he's the type of he's like
Ukraine.
He's like he's like the exception to the rule. Like you'd never think like because a lot of the things that he does are very unorthodox. He's very kind of crude in a lot of things, but he's boxed so many well-schooled, fundamentally sound boxers and been around all of them. He kind of has like the antidote for it in a way.
Yeah,
you know, he's also like
that's a really good analogy.
Yeah, you spend time on the same team as Usyk, Lomachenko.
I think there's a bit between them two as well. I don't think Lomachenko and Berinchik are particularly
they're not
friendly
big.
with each other.
They are. No, I got that. Talking to Alex about it once, I got that. He didn't really say anything, but it was what he didn't say really was quite telling.
I mean, if you like if they could, I mean, obviously we know the situation in Ukraine a minute, whether or not they'd be able to do it there, or could do it somewhere nearby, like we see with Poland, with Roslav, with Usyk and Dubois. But you'd think that'd be big business, wouldn't you? Lomachenko, Berinchik.
Yeah, you absolutely would. Yeah, I mean, it seems so stunningly
I'd
obvious.
go for that. It'd be good atmosphere.
It seems stunningly obvious, doesn't it? You know, former Olympic teammates, world title unification. You know, why on earth would you not do it? There has to be a reason why it's not really even been talked about, has it? I don't think.
No, never.
They never had domestic rivals, did they?
No.
I mean, not
the Eastern Bloc fighters just in general. Like, I mean, Tabiev Bivol was probably the only one, like of recent memory, wasn't there? Between two fighters from that part of the world. Right, just a quick flick through the rest of the card. So, I think it's good top rank cards where you see the return of a lot of their young guns, of which they have plenty. Troy Isley returns. Kelvin Davis, of course, brother of Keyshawn, and the debuting Keon Davis. And before we move on, Keyshawn, Kelvin. I just love that K letter.
Is one
of the
called
baby
Keyshawn?
name.
Is there two Keyshawns? They're just spelled differently.
I think I don't know. Maybe. I think there's three brothers, isn't there? It's Kelvin, Keon, and Keyshawn. But anyway, the fight that I do want to discuss is another lightweight division, absolutely flying, who is making a lot of noise. Abdullah Mason returns, 15-0. It feels like he's got there very, very quickly.
I forgot he's a lightweight.
They've got him boxing seemingly every 2 or 3 months, and every 2 or 3 months, Barry, he seems to be better and better.
But I talk about like Keyshawn Davis, who's an Olympic silver medalist, absolutely brilliant, but like again, how ruthless they are, because they might be looking at Abdullah Mason going like, if he doesn't make the grade, he goes right into your shoes, and you're gone. Like, I don't think that's going to happen, but I mean, they don't mess around. Mason might turn out to be the best of all.
I mean, 135 pounds is completely stretched. I mean, Abdullah Mason there was somebody we didn't mention this weekend was Floyd Schofield, who had a win as well on DAZN. On DAZN, Barry, be on DAZN.
Hi, DAZN.
There we go.
I got a badge in my back.
There are plenty of fighters in and around that 135 pound division. It seems like we've not even really seen
monopoly on it the way they go in.
Yeah, well,
18 months time.
American boxing. I mean, you've got here like saying the top. I mean, we saw Raymond Murataya at the weekend as well. Another lightweight, impressive performance. With second round stoppage win.
It was right down on the middle.
Really, I expected a tough fight from that guy. Had been 8 rounds of Brian Norman, and he beat Jojo Diaz, which at this stage is not. But he'd never been stopped and boxed good level at 147 pounds.
He was just so smooth, wasn't it?
Something that somebody said at one of the, I can't remember, it was a commentary in the first 10 seconds of the fight where Murataya had apparently said in the build up to the fight, like, I spar kids like this guy all the time at Robert Garcia's boxing academy. And I remember thinking at the time, that's a really good point. Like, he probably has. And he's got like 8-ounce gloves on.
Just in the gap from the
yeah, literally.
Went over the side with the left.
It's like, that was literally, you think about all the issues that Murataya had against like Tevin Farmer. That's completely different. You've got this guy, he probably sparred 3 guys like that every day for the last 5 years. But anyway, not to digress. But yeah, the 135-pound division in America, Tevin Farmer, Abdullah Mason, Oscar Duarte, Mexican, whatever, Frank Martin, Floyd Schofield, Keyshawn Davis, Raymond Murataya, and then Javonte Davis and Shakur Stevenson blokes there. Yeah, so a lot of talent at 135 pounds. But Abdullah Mason seems to be the kind of heir apparent, doesn't he?
I think so. He's brilliant. Everything about him's good. Fast, clever, power. Yeah. Seems like he gets banged really heavy.
Yeah, that was one of my favourite knockouts. Was it a couple of fights ago where it was that kind of 1-2 he threw that just seemed to mesmerise his opponent.
You have to be more specific. he's knocking out everybody that he's faced.
He was just standing in the middle of the ring and he just let just a lovely loose 1-2 go straight down the middle and just knocked his guy out. Who just kind of almost did see it coming but didn't seem able to do a single thing about it. I rewatched it about 20 times because I'm trying to get a look at it and just wondering to myself, why didn't he? What happened there?
That's just impeccable timing. It looks almost like it's slow motion, but it's just
it did. Yeah. Right. That's exactly what it was.
He's really good. He's 19?
Yeah,
I think so.
20.
Oh, he's 20.
From Bedford, Ohio. Go on, Bedford. Anyway, right, moving on to this weekend and the return of 2 pound-for-pound stars, or certainly the potential to be pound-for-pound stars. Of course, Jaron Boots Ennis in his rematch against Karen Chukhadzhian and Jesse Bam Rodriguez, who boxes, I've forgotten. Pedro Guevara. Thank you very much. Who's come off the win over Andrew Maloney last time out. We'll start off with Boots Ennis. Yeah, not the fight that we all want him to see, but politics and whatever else has landed us on the rematch that the world has been clamouring for.
Well, to be honest, it gives him a chance to win more impressively this time, or gives him a chance to be more massively criticised. I think.
It's a very peculiar situation. Obviously, he was signed with Matchroom fairly recently. They had his first fight under the Matchroom boxing banner, and now we've got the David Avanesian fight. So it was the last minute, David Avanesian, and now we've landed on Karen Chukhadzhian. It's kind of one of those fights that, when you're looking at your Terence Crawford's and Virgil Ortiz and whatever else, you can't help but be a little bit underwhelmed. It's not his fault.
I think they've all disappeared, haven't they? He's moved up a weight. I think he's going to move up. He looks massive for the weight, and there's no secret that he struggles a bit. So I think he'll be up soon. But he's got to get a few defenses of this title first, because he's not a big enough draw for them. I mean, he's a mega talent. He's just a risk not worth taking.
That's his problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even if you're another champion, it's like Barry says, it's what was a kind of appealing division. Everybody's kind of disappeared, and if he can get unifications and pick up a few belts, then brilliant. But if he can't, if that's going to be difficult, then he's just sort of stuck, isn't he? It's strange, to be honest, because it's not his fault.
But he can beat you. He can outbox you. He can beat you out. He can bully. He can knock you out. Like when he's flowing, he's brilliant. I think. He really is. I think he stops this kid again. Was it what's his name?
Chukhadzhian.
Yeah.
First one went the distance, but Chukhadzhian was very, very negative, which is obviously what's not really filled everybody with.
Boots was poor as well.
And that's it. Yeah.
He came up against a negative guy, and it's very difficult. A negative guy who's very clever, by the way. So he knew what to do. He'd fire back with little tippy tappy punches, the old Barry Jones special. But just enough so you couldn't get no momentum. You couldn't put your punches together. But Boots is better than that. He cuts the ring off well. And I think it was like the later rounds. He had him in a little bit of trouble. Maybe the 11th or 10th or something. And I thought, but then I talk about all the time. Acceleration of pace in your work. That you have to. You got it. He's got it. He's got to show it more. not just every now and again. It's got to be, you got to do that acceleration of pace 2 or 3 times in a round against a guy like this who's going to be tippy, spinning, bump, bump, spinning, bump, bump, grabbing, bump, bump, moving around. There's going to be no purchase on his punches, because if he does that, he's got to hold his feet and you're going to hurt him. So he's just going to be in and out. It's going to make it really difficult for you. Then he's going to fire in flurries when you're slowing down and getting frustrated to look like he's being competitive, but in reality, he's just surviving. Don't blame him.
I'd imagine that requires a completely different kind of effort on behalf of the dominant fighter to get the job done. You know, if you're in a really hard fight, then it just kind of brings it out of you. But if it's like that, then you must have to just really summon it up.
The bully,
make that big conscious effort to go, and then maybe just step off and then go again and then go again, and before you get through, because a highly trained professional fighter, if they're not looking to really throw
so
too
people
much,
always say, don't they?
and they're going to be braced for almost everything you land. It's going to be difficult to land one that they're not braced for, basically.
Yeah, it's difficult to knock out a fighter of a certain level whose sole focus is to not be knocked out.
Especially when they got
Mikey Garcia against Errol Spence.
But especially when they got clever feet, which he has. What's his name? Thank you. But because once he feels a shot, he goes back and out to an angle. He goes bump, and he goes straight away, or he'll dip in close and hold you. So like, he knows exactly how to survive, and he's tough as well. So you got to beat him and break it down. You got to take his soul. So like, you know, and that's where your brain can get in the way. So you praise someone like Boots, so, you know, on his way up, for his patience and how good he is, you know, and he just picks the right shot, and when he gets you, he's brilliant. But then sometimes, like, now, you got criticised for that against a guy like this, because you can't, you don't want to show patience. You got to put him on him straight away and make him work every second. You know, if you're gonna run, then fucking run from now, and run at my pace. Yeah, and make it. You haven't got to do all the work. You got to make him do all the work, and like I said about my new saying, you got to make that 20-foot ring into a 6-foot ring all the time, and just don't cut him off and hit him anywhere, because you have got power. And he's gonna count you a little bit. You got to ignore all the flicky flack shots, but you got to try and be sharp with them. But trying to be like, do that shoulder roll defensive thing that he does really well, you almost got to negate that, because sometimes Boots can box in a few styles. He can walk down with his hands up, do that, and take everything on the arms. And every time you feel a shot on the arm, throw the shot that you've blocked with, do that to him. Because you got fast feet when you use them, you got fast hands, you got power, you got the presence to intimidate your opponent, you got everything in your arsenal to do it. It's the mentality of just having to take away that frustration and just go, fuck, this is, I'm not going to stop him in 4, though he fucking could, but I'm definitely going to stop him in 8. But I have to start the work. I have to do the hard work from the first second of the first round by making this kid run for his life. Yeah,
it kind of felt like the first fight. Been going into the first fight, obviously he was a huge favourite as he is for the rematch as well. But he'd been blowing guys out.
I'll get to him.
Yeah, and also and Chukhadzhian, if you're not prepared for somebody like that, and you think you're just going to go in, you're going to walk through, and when he starts getting on his bike, it becomes hard work, doesn't it?
That's why I think he stops him this time. I think he's good enough, intelligent enough, and also arrogant enough to do the job. The only thing with arrogance, which is one of the best, a real good weapon to have when you're a puncher, is that you can be over arrogant and just think, I'll get him again, I'll get him this time, and not do the work. But I think Boots is a little bit of a talent where he can do the work and be the bully with patience if he has to. But he's learned, like you say, he didn't know, he thought he was just going to get to him in the end. He would have watched him and just gone, fuck, another European style who's flicky flacky, and I'll just walk him down. Once I whack him, he'll shit his pants. And they don't. No. Not everyone does shit their pants. I mean, you can't knock them out, but like, not every time someone gets hit, especially someone who can't punch, and I bet the most, we don't all go, huh. Because we're used to getting whacked by people. Because we're used to people walking this dog. Because we haven't got no power. We can't. So that's what we have to fight. This is our life. So we're used to it. Like, we don't want to be like that way, but we are where we are. But I think now Boots will make the adjustment. I think he'll make him work from the first second of the first round. And the corner got to be quite important to keep him focused on that. Don't forget about all this. Don't be frustrated. Forget about it. Just beat him up. I can't get to him. Just cut it off. Yeah, but he's spinning. Don't worry about it. Whack him. I can't hit the target clean. Just hit something. And in the end, there'll be a little gap. Because I think in the later rounds of that fight, there were more gaps. And he did have an opportunity, maybe. But he just couldn't. It was, no, you got a guy who sees the finishing line. If you drag a guy into deep waters in the first 2 rounds, you don't see the finishing line. That's not a great. I've been put down 3 times in 2 rounds. It's a horrible place to be. When you think, fucking hell, it's only 2 rounds. You look at your watch, you go, what's going on here now? Like, I've been down 3 times. Oh, fucking hell. He's not even tired. It's horrible. Like, it takes a resolve you're not sure you got. So do that. Just put him under pressure that way. Because then as the rounds go on, and you're at round 6, and you're exhausted, but the guy in front of you is breathing fire, then it's a hard night. And Boots I think he really needs an impressive win Saturday to bolster that thing that we've all been saying about him being the future of the division, which I think he still is, because the division has changed dramatically. But I think he needs a big performance to get another decent name around him to fight, a more marketable name, before he moves up and gets hopefully to challenge Crawford and Virgil Ortiz and all the other guys who are now making names for themselves in the super welterweight division. I was going to say like middle, but can't.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point there. It's one I kind of put. One I kind of put to you, Andy.
I babble long enough when we come on.
You're right. There was a good point in there somewhere. One I'll come to you with, Andy, is it is a very different 147-pound division now. There is no Terence Crawford. There's no Errol Spence. There's no Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Keith Thurman. You can keep Amir Khan, Kell Brook. You keep naming them. Very different scene now at welterweight. All being well, and Boots Ennis wins, which I think we all kind of expect him to. Where's the big fight? If you're steering Boots, where are you steering him? I don't think the Crawford fight's going to happen. That I cannot see.
Crawford's Canelo went out.
Crawford. Yeah, or out.
Yeah. There's no reason why he would want to fight Ennis, and not because he's scared or he thinks he's going to lose, just because he's got to where he's got to, and why would he take what he would feel would be a backward step?
I'm quite sure he'd take the fight if they give him whatever he wants to fight Canelo.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then no one's going to do that.
All of a sudden that turned up on the table, but that's not going to happen, is it? So I don't really know is the answer with Ennis. It's if belt collecting is what he needs to do in that division, but which ones are the easiest ones to make, I guess. But none of you've got Stanionis, haven't you? Mario Barrios and Brian Norman.
Barrios is boxing next weekend, on next Friday on the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson undercard. And then Brian Norman, obviously top rank. I think everyone kind of. I don't think like.
I think that fight comes back on the table. I think that normal fight comes back on the table. I do.
That could
happen.
happen.
The more realistic point of view from their camp. They understand. They did like, we know our worth, and like we're worth whatever. What were they asking for? Silly money, weren't they? We want like 100 million. No, they want these millions.
They wanted big money. Yeah.
They wanted too much money, but maybe they were right, because they knew the fight wasn't coming straight away, so they just thought, we're going to say that, and then maybe the renegotiation we get more than what we started with. I think that fight would be more realistic, because Norman. That's a massive fight for Norman.
I think if you're Matchroom, you probably go right. Box Shakram Giasov, your mandatory, who we also promote, and then if Shakram Giasov wins, we'll do Boots versus Giasov in a unification. That's what you're probably thinking if you're Matchroom.
Yeah.
I think Giasov would be. I mean, Giasov, I know he's flattered to deceive a little bit as a pro, but you'd give him a very good chance of beating Brian Norman Jr. Yeah. Brian Norman's a good fighter, but we still don't really know how good he is.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Giasov, I think we probably know. Stanionis is a funny one. He's no longer with PBC. I don't think. I'm not really sure what his next move is.
It's a fan-friendly fight, then.
Yeah. You'd think, again, with those guys, you think if the money's there, then the fights will happen.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I mean, none of those guys are making fortunes either. That's the good thing about it. So it's all like,
and none of those fights, unification, so they would be going to set anybody's pulse racing, are they? That's just the reality.
But to dominate your division is listen. Crawford was unified, was undisputed super lightweight champion, and there's not one name you remember.
No, that you do what you can do, don't you? You box whoever is there, and that's it. Like if that can happen, and they can get those fights made, then that's obviously what you do. But if it proves difficult, then you've got to try and make sure that he doesn't get frustrated or stagnate somehow.
And how tight is he at the weight?
Yeah,
because he's big.
And he's starting to get to that age now, so it's 27, where still in his athletic prime, but it's not like making the weight when you're 23, 24.
But if he can unify in 2 years, which is a big, Crawford's gone. So just forget about Crawford. I think Crawford's gone. And if that fight comes on the table, you take it. But I think Crawford's gone. So, but I mean, Virgil Ortiz will still be around. So Sebastian Fundora will still be somehow making the weight somehow, and Tim Tszyu will be back, and maybe marketable names. Well, not always the best fighters.
There was some talk about Boots and Virgil Ortiz. There was some rumours about that fight potentially going to Saudi at some point. That's been a fight that's been kind of built between them over the years.
That's a good fight.
That would be fantastic.
At welterweight, I massively fancied it.
It'd be 154. He'd have to go up for that. I don't think Virgil Ortiz is boxing south of 54 ever again.
But you want to see Boots at 154, see what he's like, don't you? Even though you just think, why would it be massively different? Sometimes it is.
Yeah, but against another guy who's also coming up from 47 as well. He's not fighting somebody who's had to cram themselves into 54, like a big 54, like Bakram Murtazaliev. You'd want to fight so you could test the physical before going in with somebody like that. Virgil Ortiz, somebody who's wasn't that long ago. He was at 140. I mean, he was at 147, but it wasn't that long ago. At 140. This was probably 5 years, but still, which is obviously a long time anyway. Okay, right. We don't have a tremendous amount of time, particularly when discussing who's up next. Andy, going to come to you. Jesse Bam Rodriguez makes the first defense of his second reign as WBC super flyweight champion against Pedro Guevara. It's not the huge stellar name that we were looking for, but still a good fighter in Guevara, who's in decent form himself. That win over Andrew Maloney, contentious as it was in some parts, still comes into this bout full of confidence, albeit against a very, very good fighter in Bam Rodriguez.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this fight, and he can't have massive fights every single time that he fights. I mean, you look at recent times, and what is it? 4 of his last 5 have been Quadras, Sorung Vasai, Sonny Edwards, and Estrada. There was a Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, a couple of fights, as
well.
Israel Gonzalez and Christian Hernandez.
Yeah, that's Christian Hernandez. But that's how it's been for him. He's been seeking out these big opportunities and flitting between 2 different weight divisions. I just find every single time I see him, whether it's a picture or a video outside of the ring, it just makes me laugh because he just doesn't.
It's like you, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He does. He looks as likely to be a fighter as I do. Less likely, I would say, if that's even possible. But it just shows you never judge a book by its cover, because I'm also ferociously hard when challenged.
Yeah.
But he is something else, isn't he? He's Barry's. He's Barry's. Barry goes weak at the knees at the very mention of his name. But I understand why, because it's not just the fact that he's really good; it's just the way that he's done it. Just stepping up and taking that fight against Quadras, and he's not scared of any challenge. He'll fight anyone, anytime, anywhere. He's exactly what you need in any kind of sport. And Guevara, like you say, he's coming in good form off the back of that win against Malone. He's been around a long time.
Only lost to good fighters.
He's only lost to good fighters. He was pretty long reigning light flyweight champion, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah, and he boxed
WBC light flyweight.
Yeah, and he lost to Ken Shiro.
Yeah, lost to Ken. Yeah, he's lost to Casemiro as well. So that's another good. That's another good fighter.
Didn't get stopped.
And he's solid, isn't he? But he's not going to be good enough.
Look, you wouldn't have thought so. Barry, we were out in the desert for Bam's win over Juan Francisco Estrada. Obviously a fight where he looked massively impressive, but also did have to pick himself up off the canvas for the first time in his career. Do you think he'll take something from that? I mean, you would think so.
I think it was a plus more than negative. The fact that he got caught by an all-time great, but just not a heavy shot, a clean shot right down the middle, so he got caught him square-footed and just brushed it off and beat him up. He did better in the end of the rest of the round than Estrada did, I thought. But he's fucking brilliant, isn't he? I fed up talking about him. I'm not really. He's you got a good fighter, really good world class fighter in Guevara versus a fucking just a Hall of Fame brilliant fighter in Bam. When you got the power, he's got loads of power. That's the thing. He got power, real power for his size. But he hasn't just dined out on that. I'm more in love with his ability, his movement, and the way he finds the angles for the shots and all that than his power. It's just the way he's honed his craft, where people have usually with his strength and power don't really bother. They just think I just got to be good enough to get to the target and fucking beat you up. But he doesn't. The way he moves around, the way he takes that semicircle and just fucking dominates it and just confuses you is brilliant. Whether he does a quick step or he takes a big spin, big pivot, it just opens up a whole new world of shots that he can land with every time he fights somebody. He's just brilliant. Though the two performances that were below par were against people not as good as Guevara, but below the Hall of Fame level.
Yeah, so what I put to him, I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, and what
did he say? No,
and he basically said that to him as well. The Christian Hernandez and Israel Gonzalez fights were two fights where, if you remember, everyone was, this is after he'd just beaten Quadras and Srisiket. Just like, go out there and do this, and he underperformed a little bit. He tried a little bit too hard, and two crafty, good fighters as well in Gonzalez and Hernandez.
He just started to beat everyone up, I think.
Yeah, but he didn't quite set the world alight like he'd done in some of those other fights. And part of that stylistically as well. The fighters are sort of edging back, whereas against Quadras and Saul Rungvisai, they're guys who come forward and allow you to kind of get your shots off.
Strada, he boxed. The people are criticising he's getting them all at the end of their careers, and he is. It's not his fault, but he is. And but Estrada is still the second best super flyweight in the world, still. So, who was good, just not good enough. So he didn't get Estrada at his peak. Of course, he never. And certainly, he's just a Rungvisai. But Rungvisai was stylistically made for him anyway, I think. But he's still doing a really good job in him. I think he needs that fear factor. But again, part of being a great fighter is being able to dominate everyone, I think. So he has to be aware. But he's up against a guy who's good. He's up against a guy here who fires back. So, he'll be up for this. Because he'll land with a shot, and Guevara will fire back. He works well. He's a Mexican who will always find the left hook. Like with his eyes closed, can he? Find the left uppercut, a lead left uppercut. Like Guevara, he's got that. Like they all got it. He just finds the space for it everywhere. But I think him looking and willing to fight back will be his undoing against Bam. Once Bam gets into his rhythm, you're done. Yeah, I don't. You're done. He beats everyone. Everyone.
There's a lot of talk coming into this fight. It's kind of reared its head again, Andy, about a potential bout with the one of the four kings that we've not seen yet. Jesse Bam Rodriguez against Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. I can already see Barry wincing at the idea, which is one of the reasons why I came to you first. Any interest in seeing that fight?
Not really. Not really, just because I think that he is an all-time great, but I think we know what would happen, and I don't particularly want to see it, to be honest with you. I don't think it is a criticism that people are levelling at Rodriguez too much, is that he's catching people at the end of their career, but basically because it's not like he's waited around for them to fade and then decided to fight them. He sprinted after them to get them in time before for the end of their career, hasn't he? But I could live without that one, I think.
Barry?
Yeah, it's weird, see, because I sort of want to see it just because they've been my two favourite fighters of the last how many years, but I don't want to see it because Gonzalez is though arguably Estrada's the best of those four kings on paper. With the wins, I think Gonzalez has been the standout for me. Gonzalez the best fighter.
I think he's probably even had the better career. I see what you're saying though. Estrada sort of
he's got
outlasted him a little bit.
But then now with the second win, Gonzalez won. We all thought he won that.
Yeah, and then the third one.
But there's been a bit more of an obvious decline with him than the others because the way he fights. Because he isn't a come forward fighter, which he does take punches, but he takes the sting out the punches with his head movement. I said it before, I said it on about his rhythm is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in the boxing ring. I mean, I was Sugar Ray Leonard. I idolise Sugar Ray Leonard. I grew up wanting to beat him, like more than anything. But like the rhythm of Gonzalez, the only other rhythm who's come close to that, I think, I know there's going to be loads of fighters actually, but in my mind, Duran has a great rhythm coming forward. But I mean, but Gonzalez's smoothness. I remember I said before, if there was a sound to Gonzalez, it would be just the way he moves. It's just beautiful to watch. So I don't want to see him against Bam Rodriguez. Not now, because he's too easy to hit now than he was before, and he hasn't got that like the way he used to just block shots before a little bit more. Your vision starts to go. Don't I say this all the time? I think your vision starts to go as people say you can't take a punch as good as you used to. Your vision goes. Don't see it till it's too late. And if you don't see it against Bam, especially because he still has the youthfulness to have that sharp, the fast twitch fibres, he'll spin, and he'll have Gonzalez, who's brilliant but more methodical now than he ever has been before, and he'll catch him if you don't see him, and I think he'll not get Gonzalez out. I wouldn't want to see that. But if it gets made, I'm going to go. Most definitely, I gotta go just to see him. I mean, if these guys were middleweights, they'd be billionaires. I can tell you, they'd be dominating all of them.
56 fights, Chocolatito.
Yeah, and
37 years of age now.
And 20 odd fights ago, we were saying he's good. He's still good enough to beat everyone, but you could see the wear and tear. Then I thought, to be fair, as brilliant as he is, he's been great. I mean, it's been a joy to watch. He has. He's been an absolute privilege to watch, and I got to see him live a couple of times, and asked like a bucket list that has been for me, as it's been to watch Bam Rodriguez box live. That's been a bucket list thing. Like some fighters, you'll look back in your career and you go, people always go about the big fights and the Furies and the Golovkins and the Canelo. We've all been to them, haven't we? We've all been great. But for me, my own little personal little list have been to see them two live has been an absolute privilege. But I think so. I do think he'll be more up for this fight. I think stylistically as well, it'll be a fight where it'll be Guevara want to be more competitive than the other two. And so I do think ultimately because of that, Bam gets a stoppage against a guy who doesn't get stopped. I think he continues to make a statement, I think. Or we see an underwhelming performance and start criticising him and picking him apart.
And pick Chocolatito to beat him.
Yes.
I
would have one Chocolatito to beat him.
Yeah, so would I as well. Yeah, nothing against Bam, but you would, wouldn't you? I mean, how could you not? But yeah, I mean, it's also a fight I don't really want to see.
No. But I want to see Bam.
I mean, the fight that I want to see is Bam Rodriguez against Fernando Martinez. If Fernando Martinez beats Ioka again, which I think he will, of the IBF, is a unification. So he's got the WBA now, because Ioka had the WBA. All the WBA. There was a unification. So he's now got one of them. He's got the WBA. Yeah. But he beat him the first time round quite well, and I expect him to beat him again. That's a really good fight. I think Fernando Martinez is what people thought Julio Cesar Martinez was.
Yeah.
I think he's the better version. That'd be a great fight. But yeah, we will wait and see. Right, it's come down to everybody's favourite part of the show, the prediction element. We're in great form. So we're going to start with Andy Clarke. Number 1, Keyshawn Davis against Gustavo Lemos.
I'm going late stoppages across the board, I think.
Ooh, go on, And.
A trio of them.
Barry?
I think he wins wide on points.
I think he wins on points, and I expect some hairy moments.
Yeah.
I think Gustavo Lemos is going to really push him. I've not looked impressed by Keyshawn Davis as a pro, I have to say. Yeah, but it remains to be seen. I expect him to win, but I expect if he does stop him or wins the fight comfortably and easily, I'll be very surprised. No, yeah, sure, but I think I'd be very surprised if Gustavo Lemos does not have more than one moment in that fight. Yeah, I think he's a good fighter. Okay, I'm going to go back around the other way. Jaron Ennis against Karen Chukhadzhian.
I think he stops him. 2, yeah. I think he makes it right this time.
This time it's personal.
Yeah, only to you.
Only to Eddie.
Even you don't want to fight him. Yeah, but I think he stops him, and I think we see the class. I think he realised all great fighters can cope with pressure. I think the pressure's on for him to perform, and because he knows what he's up against now, I think he'd be sharper and quicker and more aggressive from the early stage. All the things I've pointed out. So I think he stops him, but I think it takes him 8 or 9 rounds to do it.
Andy?
Yeah, I think late stoppage. I think he's going to go after it. I think he'll know that, like Barry explained earlier, he'll know that he needs to put the heat on him right from the very beginning if he's going to force a stoppage. And I think if he does that, it's a very different kind of experience for your opponent. You know, if you get to halfway and all right, you're 6 rounds down, but no real damage has been done, then you could kind of see the finishing line. But if you sat on your stool after 3 rounds and you've taken some hammer and you're thinking, I've got another 9 rounds of this, your will can break, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say I go for Boots points, but I think he will get the stoppage as well. I think maybe breaks him down, but I mean, obviously they've got to fight him because it's a mandatory and you don't want to lose your belts. And we've spoken about this in the past. Like I think a lot of his value at the minute is wrapped up in that belt. He's not somebody who can just drop a belt and still be okay, I don't think. And I don't think they'd box Chukhadzhian if it wasn't for that. Not because he's already beaten him once, but the fact that he's a very negative, well-schooled fighter, he's not really looking to engage. It wouldn't surprise me if we have a similar sort of fight, to be honest.
Nightmare. It could be, but it's a nightmare for Brutes Ellis, because that means he hasn't learned from the last one. As good as what's his name is. Thanks.
Karen Chukhadzhian.
That's the one, yeah. Karen is.
Karen, that's it. Yeah, that's what he became known as, didn't he? On Twitter, it's much easier. But yeah, I'll go for Boots' late stoppage. But yeah, wouldn't surprise me if we get a similar sort of fight second time around. And then to you first, Barry, Ban Rodriguez against Pedro Guevara.
I think he stops him. He makes a massive statement anytime he wants to. Because what Bam does as well, he makes you fight at the pace. Because he has the range and the reach, so he whacks you with that jab straight away, that southpaw jab. You feel it.
Big long arms, isn't he?
Oh, massive. I mean, he looks like he got sticks. Like under his jumper, doesn't he? One of those like boxing gloves on the end of it, like that. What was those those? Oh, who cares? But yeah, I couldn't think of it. You might be then, like, yeah. But yeah, so I think he stops him. I reckon it'll be around about 7.
Andy?
A little bit later.
Yeah, around that 7. I'm going to go for so we're all sort of aligned on all of them. What do we had the difference? I think points.
I'm saying
Contrarian. Two weeks in a row we get Andy Clarke predictions. Unprecedented stuff here on the Boxing Show.
Lucky people.
Hopefully they're better than they were last week, but we'll see. But yeah, that's all we have time for today on the Boxing Show. Thank you to everybody for tuning in, and thank you to our esteemed panel of guests, co-hosts, whatever.
I genuinely thought for a second that you're going to
panel of judges.
What it is,
no, we can't do that.
As you've got in our contract, guest is one rate, co-host is another
there
rate.
There we go.
Co-guests.
Co-guest means split it down the middle.
I expect to say, our esteemed panel of.
No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do
co-hosts.
that. Very fortunate to sit here every Monday with you two for 2 hours. But anyway, thank you to everybody for stopping by. Don't forget to let us know in the comments who you think is going to win this weekend. Will it be Boots or will it be Karen Chukhadzhian? Repeat or revenge? Let us know in the comments. We'll catch up with you next week.
That's what's on my mind.